Chapter 3127. My mother is very tactful. 1. The people on Lung Roakshu's side basically didn't treat this as a big deal. There were just a few toads who wanted to eat swan meat. It wasn't a big deal. However, the Yang family's ancestor and the little handsome boy weren't so calm. They were very clear that the couple and the people around them were not ordinary people. They were not people their Yang family could afford to offend. If this matter was not handled well, the Yang family would probably be doomed. Originally, inviting these people to the Yang family as guests could be said to be something that the Yang family could not ask for more. But now, because of a few ignorant, love-struck women, their Yang family might be faced with a disaster of extermination. How could the Yang family's ancestor feel good about this? His heart felt as heavy as if there was a big stone stuck in his chest, and the handsome young man who had been following him was so nervous that he didn't dare to make a sound. On the other hand, the girls who were unwilling to walk behind them all had dissatisfaction on their faces. They felt that their ancestor had embarrassed them in front of the collateral branch. This made them lose a lot of face. It could be said that they didn't have the slightest sense of crisis at the moment. After the Yang family's old ancestor returned to the Yang family's main residence, he immediately gathered the patriarch and the elders for an emergency meeting. The Yang family members who had been inexplicably called here were all puzzled by this, and the old ancestor sitting in the main seat without saying a word with a serious expression also gave them a bad feeling. What had happened? Which blind person had angered the old ancestor? The patriarch and the elders of the Yang family were a little uneasy, but the Yang family's ancestor did not speak for a long time. Only his face was black and silent. This also made the Yang family's hearts begin to sink, and at the same time, they realized that the matter was probably very serious. After a long time, the Yang family's ancestor looked at the elders and said, "I heard that the Yang family is going to hold a wedding? Old ancestor, what's the good news? How come I didn't know about it?" Elder Huan asked with a puzzled look on his face. If it was a love affair, it was impossible that he, the chief financial officer, had not received any news at all. Yang Bing is getting married. The Yang family's old ancestor coldly said. Who are you marrying? Elder Huan was even more bewildered. Yang Bing had the highest status among the Yang family's young ladies and was the family head's granddaughter. Logically speaking, it was impossible for him to not have heard of such a big matter as her marriage, right? However, the truth was that he really didn't know. Elder Huan was puzzled and couldn't help but turn to look at the other elders. He saw that they were also in a state of confusion. It was obvious that they didn't know about this. Only the family head had an awkward expression on his face. It seemed like the family head knew. For a moment, all the elders' eyes were focused on the patriarch of the Yang family, waiting for him to answer. The patriarch of the Yang family had no choice but to cough a few times and say, "Old ancestor, this matter. You don't need to talk nonsense. I'm only asking you, is Yang Bing going to get married?" The Yang family's old ancestor interrupted the Yang family patriarch's words and asked, "Well, Binger did have that idea, but I haven't agreed to it yet." The patriarch of the Yang family said honestly, "Oomph, she had an idea? She really dared to think about it? Didn't she know who she was? Who was she to think about? A toad lusting after a swan's flesh? You don't know what death is." The Yang family's old ancestor said angrily. "Old ancestor, Binger isn't that bad, is she?" Hearing the old ancestor's words, the Yang family head couldn't help retorting. "It depends on who you're compared to, understand?" The Yang family's old ancestor roared with a face full of disappointment. "That, old forefather, don't be angry first. I want to ask, who is Yang Bing going to marry?" Elder Huan asked hurriedly when he saw the old ancestor's anger. "You tell them." The Yang family's old ancestor turned his head and said to the little handsome boy beside him, "Yes, ancestor." The handsome young man nodded his head in response, then turned to Elder Huan and the others. "The person Yang Bing is going to marry is the father of the 3 little babies." "Arg, it can't be?" Elder Huan couldn't help but widen his eyes. He was obviously shocked. They knew who the 3 little babies were, and they knew even more clearly who their father was. He was the unparalleled master with unfathomable strength. Yang Lin said it herself. and even said that Yang Bing wanted to be the stepmothers of the three little babies. If the three of them were disobedient, she would kick them out of the house, and if they were obedient, she would reward them with a meal. Handsome Yang said without hiding anything. All the elders' expressions changed like a palette, and Elder Huan's reaction was the most intense. The three little treasures were his favorite, and Yang Bing actually dared to have such thoughts. He really didn't want to live anymore. Moreover, he dared to have ideas about her father. Did he think that her mother was easy to bully? Although the woman under the alias Yang Shui was so beautiful that one could not take their eyes off her, Elder Huan was clear that such a woman could not be a flower vase. Yang Xiong, have you eaten a bear's heart and a leopard's gall? You dare to have ideas about her? In his anger, Elder Huan was so angry that he directly called the family head's name. He was Jinshi, and this matter was not as simple as fighting for a woman and snatching a man. If it was not handled properly, the Yang family would no longer exist. I said, I haven't agreed. The patriarch of the Yang family said with an aggrieved expression. You didn't agree? So, you're considering it? You bastard. Even if you want to die, don't use our Yang family as a scapegoat. The more Elder Huan spoke, the angrier he became. He really wanted to rush forward and give Yang Xiong a few tight slaps to wake him up. What the hell was this? Is it that serious? The patriarch of the Yang family couldn't help but ask guiltily. Of course there is. You were just looking for death, you know that? Elder Huan said angrily. I'm just thinking for the family. Why don't you think about it? If Bing can really marry that man, it will be a great benefit to our Yang family. The patriarch of the Yang family reminded. What benefits? If you dare to have that kind of thought, I dare say that Bing will not live past the day she gets married. Elder Huan said furiously. How could this be? Don't tell me that Yang Shui would dare to kill Bing. The patriarch of the Yang family asked in surprise. Why wouldn't I? There's already someone who wants to snatch her man, and she's still letting her play mahjong. Elder Huan sneered for the master's whimsical thought. But, the patriarch of the Yang family choked and couldn't speak. Do you think that she's just a woman? As long as Mr. Yi agrees, she won't dare to have any objections? At this moment, the Yang family's old ancestor, who somewhat understood the Yang family head's thoughts, lightly said, I thought about it, but I haven't agreed to it yet. The patriarch of the Yang family said, feeling wronged. Do you really think that Madame Yi is an ordinary woman? The Yang family's old ancestor continued to ask, aren't women just women? No matter how strong she was, she still had to listen to her husband. Besides which powerhouse doesn't have a few women, so the patriarch of the Yang family explained, but before he could finish, he was interrupted by the old ancestor of the Yang family. Chapter 3128. My mother is very sensible too. So, you think it's not a bad idea to marry Bing with him, right? The Yang family's ancestor said. I've thought about it, but without the old ancestor's approval, how could I dare to agree? The patriarch of the Yang family quickly said, You really didn't agree? Then why did Yang Lin dare to say that? When the Yang family's old ancestor thought of this, he became a little angry. Ancestor, I swear, I really didn't agree. The patriarch of the Yang family said immediately, Forget it. It's no longer important whether you agree or not. The Yang family's old ancestor helplessly sighed. Ancestor, what about this matter? The patriarch of the Yang family asked for the opinion of the old ancestor. As long as the old ancestor agreed, this matter would be easy to handle. It could be said that the patriarch of the Yang family had a very beautiful dream. Of course, this had a lot to do with Yang Bing's brainwashing, so he couldn't help but have a beautiful dream. Don't think about this anymore. Let's think about how to deal with the aftermath. The Yang family's old ancestor looked deeply at the Yang family's patriarch and couldn't help but think in his heart, should he change the patriarch of the Yang family? This person was too full of himself. Sooner or later, he would bring disaster to the Yang family. After what good? The patriarch of the Yang family didn't understand what the old ancestor meant. Do you even need to ask? Of course, it's about how to calm their anger. Elder Huan couldn't help but sneer as he replied on behalf of the ancestor. Why are they so angry? We didn't do anything, did we? The patriarch of the Yang family asked in a daze. You and your grandson are snatching her man, and you don't allow her to get angry? Elder Huan was helpless. Had the head of the family's intelligence been eaten by dogs these few days? Then we haven't robbed him yet, have we? The patriarch of the Yang family said weakly. They hadn't even put into action yet. If I were them, you should die for having such thoughts. Elder Huan said honestly. Is it that serious? The patriarch of the Yang family was in disbelief. That Yang Shui was so jealous. Let me ask you, is this Yang Bing's idea, or your idea? Instead of directly answering Patriarch Yang's question, the Yang family's old ancestor asked back. It's Bing. She admires Mr. Yi a lot, so she wants to marry him. The patriarch of the Yang family said honestly. Did you tell her Mr. Yi's identity? The Yang family ancestor asked again. I didn't tell her. She overheard it by accident. The patriarch of the Yang family said carefully. No wonder. The old ancestor of the Yang family nodded. He had found it strange before that Yang Bing had always been rather proud. So why would he suddenly want to marry a married man? So it turned out that he had long known about the other party's identity. However, knowing his identity, he still dared to be delusional. It had to be said that Yang Bing's guts were really big. Ancestor, what do we do now? The patriarch of the Yang family, who didn't know what the old ancestor meant, asked in a daze. What can we do? In order to protect the Yang family, he could only hand Yang Bing over. I'm even afraid that they won't agree. The Yang family ancestor sighed. When the patriarch of the Yang family heard this, he panicked and hurriedly asked, Old ancestor, what do you mean by that? Why are you handing Bing over? Why? The other party was angry. Do you understand? If we don't give them a satisfactory explanation, do you want to wait for them to exterminate our Yang family? The Yang family's old ancestor said angrily. Exterminate our Yang family? I know that the enemy is very strong, but we have so many experts. Can they really destroy the Yang family? The patriarch of the Yang family said in disbelief. Yang Xiong, did you think that my previous warning was a joke? This time, the Yang family's old ancestor was even angrier. He continued, I'm not afraid to tell you that I once saw Mr. Yi tear space with my own eyes. Madam Yi is also a strong person. The strength of the two of them is not something that we, ancient martial arts practitioners, can imagine. It's ridiculous that you still dare to have ideas about other people's men and treat Madam Yi as an ordinary woman. You really don't know what's good for you. Hearing the old ancestor's serious tone and the truth, the Yang family's patriarch and the elders suddenly panicked. If the old ancestor said so, then it was definitely not fake. More importantly, if this matter really brought disaster to the Yang family, then wouldn't the Yang family disappear from the world? Thinking of the terrible consequences, the pale-faced elders all simultaneously glared at the Yang family head with their fire-breathing eyes. For a moment, the slightly scheming Yang family head became the target of public criticism. Ancestor, is there any way to turn the situation around? Elder Huan was the calmest and asked. If handing over Yang Bing could really solve the Yang family's crisis this time, what did it matter? Moreover, this matter was also Yang Bing's own doing. He did not sympathize with Yang Bing at all. But the key to the problem was one Yang Bing enough to appease the other party's anger? I don't know. The old ancestor of the Yang family said helplessly. It was obvious that this matter was not something he could control. Furthermore, Lung Ruoxue had also given the word, so he was really not confident. Thinking up to this point, the patriarch of the Yang family couldn't help but turn to look at the patriarch of the Yang family. Right now, he really didn't like the patriarch of the Yang family. How could he have been blind to let Yang Xiong be the patriarch? But now he had caused such a big problem. How was he going to end this? Old ancestor, can't you think of a way? Why don't we go to the three little babies and ask for their help? Seeing that the old ancestor was very vexed, Elder Huan couldn't help but give an idea. It's useless. The three babies hate me too. They're ignoring me. Besides, you know what Yang Lin said. If I go to her now, she won't give me face. The Yang family's old ancestor said truthfully. Are we just going to wait for death like this? Elder Huan's face turned pale. If we hand Yang Bing over, maybe they'll let us live, right? An elder guessed. What if it doesn't work? I think we should just wait for death. Elder Juan glanced at the elder who spoke. The elder was speechless. Who would willingly wait for death? What was this? Elder Juan, you have a good relationship with the 3 kids. Why don't you go and plead for them? The patriarch of the Yang family, who had already lost his mind, suddenly said, Master, they don't even give face to the ancestor, so how can they respect me, an elder? Elder Juan said helplessly, but in his heart, he couldn't help but think, there's no way he'll be able to plead for her. Of course, it wasn't that he didn't want to care about the Yang family's life or death, but he felt that the couple didn't seem to be people who would kill innocents, so they shouldn't really kill the ordinary members of the Yang family. However, he didn't know how they would be satisfied with only pursuing the culprit. More importantly, he knew that the other party was definitely in a fit of anger. If he wanted to plead for mercy, he would definitely not have a good ending. Only a fool would rush to clean up the mess for Yang Bing and the family head. The patriarch of the Yang family was helpless when Elder Juan rejected the offer. Then, he turned to look at the patriarch. Seeing this, the Yang family's old ancestor said bluntly, Yang Xiong, since this matter was caused by Yang Bing, then you, as his grandfather, can't escape the blame. So, you have to personally explain and apologize until he's willing to forgive you. Yes. The patriarch of the Yang family braced himself and agreed. In fact, he knew very well that this matter was not easy to resolve. Otherwise, the old ancestor would not be so angry. After the meeting ended, the patriarch of the Yang family planned to meet Lung Ruoxue and the others. He had wanted to find a few elders to accompany him to boost his courage, but who knew that not a single elder was willing to step forward. This fact made him feel very stifled. Helplessly, he could only go by himself. When he arrived at the villa where Lung Ruoxue and the others were staying, Patriarch Yang saw 3 of them sitting on the swing in the courtyard, swinging back and forth. Not far away, there were a few petite and cute beastie lazily basking in the sun. When they saw him coming, those few little beastie rolled their eyes slightly and then continued to yawn and bask in the sun. As for the 3 of them, they did not even look at him, knowing that he might not be very popular. The patriarch of the Yang family still walked to the 3 and said in a low voice, 3 little babies, why are there only you 2? We're the adults. Hearing this, Rue Jean raised his head and replied, Mommy is packing up. Why are you packing up? The match isn't over yet. The patriarch of the Yang family played dumb and tried to get close to him. Rue Ju looked disdainfully at the Yang family head before saying, To make room for that Yang Bing, my mother is very tactful. This time, the patriarch of the Yang family couldn't pretend anymore. His old face was burning red. This little baby's words were really too sharp. He was a little ashamed. Don't worry, we'll also follow mother to make space for Yang Bing's future child. After that, Rue Jean added, The patriarch of the Yang family felt his heart clench. This little kid knows too much. Little brother, why are you talking so much nonsense with him? Even if that woman wanted to marry her father, she had to see if her father wanted her. But I think it's more likely that Dad will cut off that woman. At this time, Rue's expression was unkind. He looked at the Yang family's old ancestor as if he was looking at an enemy. The Yang family's old ancestor smiled bitterly to himself. It seemed that he had offended these 3 little babies. Although he was not very familiar with these little babies before, at least they had never used such a tone when they spoke. AI, the patriarch of the Yang family, who was sighing repeatedly, could only look at the 3 of them pitifully and say, Little babies, you've misunderstood. Our Yang family has no intention of marrying Yang Bing off to your father. Don't listen to other people's nonsense, okay? Old man, the other people you're talking about is your Yang family. Besides, do you think we're stupid and can't tell that you're fooling us? Why? Relax. My mother won't do anything before your elite competition is over. She promised me, so don't worry, you can live for a few more days. Saint Rue said calmly. Hearing Saint Rue's words, Master Yang's heart felt even more stifled. However, this was not the end, because Rue continued, Don't even think about moving your clansmen to a safe place. By the way, they'll tell you a little secret. Even if you move all of your clansmen away, with my mother's ability, it'll be easy to find them. So, I suggest you stay here and wait for your death. Chapter 31:29. Wifey, please take me with you. 1. Just wait for death. Just wait for death. These words have been circling in the head of the Yang family, making his brain buzz. At this moment, his mind even appeared to be blank for a moment, because he never dreamed that these 3 young children would actually have such an imposing aura when they threatened people. Could this be the inheritance of the strong bloodline? For a time, the Yang family patriarch's face was a little pale. After regaining consciousness, he suddenly had mixed feelings, and his heart was so stifled that he didn't know what to say. He stared sadly at the 3 for a long time, trying to arouse their pity, but he didn't get the slightest response from them. After saying those words, the 3 of them had already thrown the dumbfounded patriarch of the Yang family aside and went to play by themselves. Looking at the 3 carefree little kids, even if the patriarch of the Yang family wanted to please them, he couldn't say anything. At the same time, he couldn't help but feel a little ashamed. He couldn't help but like these 3 cute little kids. How could Bang have such a vicious thought? When he thought of this, he could not stay any longer. He knew very well that if the 3 babies didn't like him so much, the other 2 probably wouldn't want to see him at all. After a short pause, Patriarch Yang left the villa. After returning to the Yang family's main courtyard, he personally went to see the great ancestor and explained his thoughts. He expressed that he was willing to hand Yang Bing over as long as the other party could calm down. He also requested to resign from his position as the Yang family's patriarch and only wanted to be an ordinary Yang family member. Through the conversation with the children, he also understood that the other party was indeed not someone the Yang family could afford to offend. Now that such a thing had happened, he could not act on his own accord. As such, the position of a Yang family patriarch would be lost sooner or later. In this way, it was better for him to take the initiative to give up the position of patriarch. At least, it would allow the elders in the family to let go of his bloodline. The patriarch of the Yang family was very satisfied with the patriarch's plan to retreat in order to advance. In fact, this was also his idea before, but he had never really put into action. Now that Yang Xiong had taken the initiative to propose it, he would naturally go with the flow and agree. This way, he could save Yang Xiong some face. But if Yang Xiong's face was saved, what about his? As long as he thought of the couple he couldn't afford to offend, his little heart couldn't help but tremble. After calming down, the old ancestor of the Yang family gathered the elders and brought the culprits, Yang Bing and Yang Xiong, to the villa where Lung Ruoxue and the others were staying. This time, he was truly asking for forgiveness. The Yang family's old ancestor really hoped that this matter could be resolved immediately. Otherwise, he would be worried all day and would not be able to sleep well at night. After bringing the group of people to the villa, the Yang family's ancestor sent Yang Shan, who had a good relationship with Lung Ruoxue and the others, out first. Helpless, Yang Shan could only brace himself and look for Ji Kai, hoping that he could put in a few good words for them. At the very least, he had to let the Yang family meet Lung Ruoxue and her husband. Ji Kai already knew the other party's intention, but he did not show it. Instead, he pretended to be in a dilemma. Seeing this, Yang Shan's heart could not help but sink. Did this mean she didn't want to see him? After a long time, Ji Kai patted Yang Shan's shoulder, sighed helplessly, and said, "I understand what you're thinking, but Master and Madam said that they don't want to see the Yang family. I can't do anything about it. I'm just a butler. Just one meeting is enough. Old forefather has brought the Yang family to ask for forgiveness." Yang Shan said honestly, "What do you mean? Did someone from the Yang family offend my master and madam?" Hearing this, Ji Kai's eyes widened in disbelief, as if he didn't know what had happened. Yang Shan was a little depressed after hearing his words. Now, he didn't understand what Ji Kai was talking about. He didn't believe that Ji Kai didn't know anything about this matter. He clearly didn't want to help. Whoa. Ji Kai had learned the wrong thing. Yang Shan looked at Ji Kai with sad eyes. His eyes were full of sadness, which gave Ji Kai goosebumps. Ji Kai shivered and said helplessly, "Okay, don't look at me like that. I'll tell you first that I can only help you pass the message. As for whether Master and Madam will see you or not, I can't guarantee it." "Thank you," he said. Yang Shan was very touched. Now, the three little babies were ignoring him. Fortunately, Ji Kai did not dislike him. Ji Kai turned around and left, not appearing for a long time. The Yang family waited until the flowers were about to wither before he returned. Looking at the Yang family's expectant eyes, Ji Kai sympathized with them. Of all people to provoke, they had to provoke Master and Madam. They even dared to have ideas about Master. They really didn't know how to write the word death. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but glance at Yang Bing, who was gloomily following the Yang family's old ancestor. At this time, Yang Bing didn't realize the danger at all, and instead still had an arrogant and impertinent look on her face. When she saw Ji Kai looking at her, she even gave him a disdainful look. Ji Kai felt depressed for his eyes, and then said, "Master and Madam have agreed to see you." When the Yang family heard this, they were instantly overjoyed. Yang Bing, who still didn't know the truth, was even more elated. However, she didn't like hearing Ji Kai call the other party Madam. Madam, he should be calling her a direct descendant of the Yang family. At this moment, the Yang family members beside Yang Bing were all immersed in the joy of the other party being willing to see them, so they didn't notice Yang Bing's dissatisfied and jealous expression at all. However, Ji Kai saw it clearly, and he despised Yang Bing. How dare such a trash have designs on Master? He felt that his master was unworthy. Ji Kai's expression was calm, even though he was thinking this. After leading the Yang family to the living room, he left. However, he didn't go far. Instead, he stayed outside and eavesdropped. Without Ji Kai as the mediator, there were only Lung Ruoxue, the demon, and the Yang family members left in the living room. The couple exuded an air of authority without being angry, their entire bodies exuding a strong aura of a superior, scaring the Yang family so much that they didn't even dare to breathe. Only Yang Bing was looking at the evildoer with a dazed expression. That shy and timid little appearance was as shy as one could get. The evildoer, who was sitting on a chair with his wife expressionlessly, felt Yang Bing's fiery gaze, and his heart was instantly filled with rage. It was this hateful woman who caused his wife and children to be so rude to him, right? Although the evildoer felt that he was innocent, it was definitely his fault for making his wife angry, and the main culprit, Yang Bing, naturally became a thorn in his side. After snorting coldly, the evildoer's cold voice sounded, "The Yang family has gathered so many people here. Are they here to ask for accommodation fees or to force a marriage?" No one in the Yang family thought that the evildoer's opening remarks would be like this. They suddenly felt cold sweat. They were not here to ask for accommodation fees, and they were not here to force a marriage. Even if they were given 1,000 guts, they would not dare to. Chapter 31:30. Wifey, please take me with you too. However, when Lung Ruoxue heard the demon's words, she couldn't help but laugh in her heart. However, she didn't show it on her face. Instead, she maintained a dejected expression as if she was about to be dismissed. Seeing Lung Ruoxue's expression, Yang Bing was instantly pleased with himself. He raised his chin and looked at Lung Ruoxue provocatively before saying, "How could we, the Yang family, charge you for your accommodation? You should know that we're going to be a family soon. But this woman can't stay here any longer." The woman that Yang Bing was referring to was naturally Lung Ruoxue. Everyone present knew that. Hence, when the Yang family members heard this, they were so frightened that their faces turned pale. They shot daggers at her mercilessly. This woman who could not accomplish anything but was good at causing trouble. A scourge. What a scourge! The Yang family's old ancestor trembled in anger at Yang Bing's words. However, before he could lecture Yang Bing, he heard Lung Ruoxue chuckling, "I see. It'll make room for you." With that, Lung Ruoxue really stood up and prepared to leave. "Honey," the demon quickly followed. However, Lung Ruoxue turned around and looked at the demon expressionlessly. "Hubby, let's get a divorce. You can stay here and be a live-in son-in-law." The demon was dumbfounded. That wasn't what they said before. My wife changed the script on her own? No way. This was absolutely not allowed. The demon was very depressed. The two of them had originally discussed to teach the Yang family a lesson and make them tremble in fear. But now it seemed that he was the one who had been taught a lesson. At the thought of this, the demon turned to the Yang family with his fire-breathing eyes and roared. So you're here to force me into a marriage? No, no. The old ancestor of the Yang family felt that his heart was about to stop from fear. He wanted to explain, but the demon refused to give him the chance, pointing at Yang Bing and roaring, Then why did you bring her here? Are you trying to make my wife run away so that you can make room for her? I'm innocent, sir. We've brought her here to ask for forgiveness. The old ancestor of the Yang family wanted to cry, but had no tears. Apologize? How come I didn't see it? The demon narrowed his dark eyes and said indifferently, My lord, we really brought her here to ask for forgiveness. The Yang family has not taught their daughter well, and has raised such a thing to cause trouble for the two of you. Our Yang family is willing to hand Yang Bing over to the two of you to deal with. We hope that the two of you will let the other members of the Yang family off on account of the Yang family's great respect for the two of you. The Yang family's old ancestor heard the demon's words and quickly said, It's too late. Even if you're willing to let us deal with this woman, it won't be enough to dispel the hatred in my heart. Your Yang family, just wait to be exterminated. The demon said coldly. When a Yang family ancestor heard this, he couldn't help but turn ashen. The dignity of the strong must not be violated. At this time, Yang Bing also felt that something was wrong and pulled on the sleeve of the Yang family's old ancestor, asking, Old ancestor, what are you saying? What do you mean? Who do you want to deal with? Ha! With a crisp sound, the Yang family's old ancestor slapped Yang Bing's face. Immediately, half of Yang Bing's beautiful face swelled up. She looked at her own old ancestor in disbelief, and then heard the old ancestor say, Unfilial daughter, you've caused the Yang family to suffer. How'd I harm the Yang family? Yang Bing did not understand what was going on at all, and the other side of her face was slapped again. Instantly, her face swelled up like a pig's head. This time, Yang Xiong was the one who hit her. Yang Bing, who was in extreme pain, looked at his grandfather with tears in his eyes, the expression on his face even more shocked than before. It was fine if the old grand madam hit her, but why did her grandfather, who loved her the most, also hit her? She felt wronged. Yang Xiong, on the other hand, was extremely regretful. If he had not indulged Yang Bing from a young age, pampering her to the point where she was unruly, how could Yang Bing have brought such trouble to the Yang family? At this moment, he was filled with regret. The demon and Lung Ruoxue, who were at the side, watched coldly as the Yang family dealt with Yang Bing. When they felt that the Yang family show was over, the demon spoke. Do the Yang family's daughters hate to marry? Hearing the demon's sudden question, the Yang family elder couldn't help but be stunned. Before he could understand the meaning of the other party's words, he saw the demon raise his hand slightly, and a dark space passage instantly appeared in front of the Yang family. Especially Yang Bing. When she saw this black hole that had suddenly appeared, she was so scared that her little face that was as swollen as a pig's head turned pale. Not only that, the waves of cold and inexplicable pressure emitted by this unknown passage also made her extremely uncomfortable. And how exactly did this passage appear? Other than Yang Bing, everyone from the Yang family present had heard their great ancestor mention the mystical abilities of these two lords before them. Now that they were seeing it with their own eyes, it was even more shocking and terrifying than what they had heard. At the same time, while the Yang family members were still in a daze, a slender leg stepped out of the space tunnel. Immediately after, an extremely handsome man in black walked out. After seeing Lung Ruoxue and the demon, the man bowed respectfully. This subordinate greets Master and Nether Empress. Please call me Divine Master. I'm going to divorce your master. Lung Ruoxue reminded him after hearing the man's words. The man was instantly confused. What was going on? The Nether Empress was going to abandon her lord? Oh my God, If that happened, his lord would go crazy, and the 9 Nether prison would be in chaos. Honey, how can you abandon me? This is clearly none of my business. The evil demon felt very aggrieved when he heard this. He expressed that he was very helpless about his wife changing the script, but he also knew that his wife would not really abandon him. After all, where else could she find such an obedient and well-behaved husband like him? He took it that his wife was flirting with him in a different way. However, the man's heart trembled as he listened to their unconventional flirting. Although he knew that his lord would never allow the Nether Empress to abandon him, even if it was just a joke, it was still terrifying enough. Who was it who had angered his lord and the Nether Empress? As his lord's #1 guard, the man expressed his anger. If the Nether Queen was unhappy, it meant that his lord was about to fly into a rage. Once his lord flew into a rage, the innocent people would be the ones in trouble. Therefore, he could not let this happen. Thinking of this, the handsome man's gaze could not help but drift to the Yang family members present. At this moment, the Yang family members had long been confused by the words Lord and Netherworld Empress from the black-robed man's mouth. Why did this title sound so familiar? It couldn't be what they were thinking, right? Everyone from the Yang family was secretly shocked. At this time, they clearly felt an unfriendly and probing gaze sweeping over them like an X-ray. This not-so-friendly gaze immediately made their nerves tense. Looking at the obviously scared Yang family people, the man suddenly understood. Then he saw a pig's face. Even though he couldn't see what it originally looked like, the eyes were still glued to his lord. The man was even more clear. The man went to Lung Ruoxu's side and smiled. Dark Empress, is it this woman? I'll kill her. Please call me Divine Master. Lung Ruoxu glared at the man with her beautiful eyes as she continued to remind him. The man was helpless. His little heart was trembling, and he couldn't help but cry out in his heart. Let's not play this game anymore, okay? If he really calls you Master God, his lord will definitely find him to settle the score. Lung Ruoxu ignored the man's pleas and pointed at Yang Bing. It's this woman. She wants to marry your lord and asked me to make room for her. By the way, I also want to take the 3 children with me so that they won't be abused by her. Honey, please take me with you. After hearing Lung Ruoxu's words, the demon thickened his skin and tried to please her. Yes, take the lord with you. When the man heard this, he hurriedly agreed. He could not help but wipe the cold sweat on his forehead. He was secretly regretting it. If he had known that he would encounter his lord and the Netherworld Empress divorce when he was summoned, he would not have rushed over eagerly. However, it seemed like it was too late to regret now. The man really wanted to cry. Master, Netherworld Empress, you husband and wife are quarreling, but don't drag an innocent man like him into it. Why bring him along? Lung Ruoxu said unhappily. That master is very powerful. He's proficient in washing clothes, cooking rice, and warming the bed. He's also warm in the winter and cool in the summer, so he's definitely useful. He's also a standard tall, rich, and handsome man, so you definitely won't lose anything by taking him away. The man thought for a while before he stammered. He was afraid that his lord would be angry if he said this. However, to the man's surprise, the demon seemed to agree with the man's words. Not only did he not fly into a rage, but he even gave him a look that said he was worthy of being taught. The man was instantly excited. My lord, you've fallen. He didn't expect his lord to have such a low status in front of the Nether Empress. How would they go to live their days in the future? Wouldn't he be bullied to death by those people from the divine realm? Even though the man was thinking a lot, he didn't dare to show it. He turned to Lung Ruoxu and smiled. Dark Empress, they'll help you deal with this woman. She's just an ordinary human, and she can be exterminated in minutes. Why should we be angry with her? It's not worth it, don't you think? Moreover, I can guarantee with my head that the Lord will not dare to betray you. So please don't be angry with the Lord. I beg you. Yes, quickly take this woman away, but don't kill her yet. Doesn't she need men? Find her a few more. The demon ordered. Leave it to me. I promise I'll handle it properly. The man promised, then stretched out his hand, and Yang Bing was caught in his hand. Yang Bing struggled nonstop after being grabbed by the man, his mouth still shouting, Let me go, let me go. The man was a little impatient, knocking Yang Bing unconscious with a punch. The Yang family members were dumbfounded by this scene. Although Yang Bing's outcome would definitely not be good, this man in front of him really did not know how to be tender towards women, right? In fact, the depressed man wished he could break the jade. So how could he still pity her? After that, the man who was holding on to Yang Bing quickly left through the space tunnel. In just a short while, other than Lung Ruoxue and the demon, there were only the Yang family members who were waiting for the verdict. Chapter 31:31. Are you alone? 1. The scene that had just happened was a little too much a shock to the Yang family. Although they did not know where Yang Bing had been taken, they were all well aware that Yang Bing's end was guaranteed to be extremely miserable. But what about them? What would they do? For a moment, everyone in the Yang family became inexplicably nervous, feeling infinitely confused about the unknown future. They didn't even know if they could keep their lives or how many of the Yang family members could survive. But no matter what the final result was, the Yang family was destined to decline. Thinking of this, the Yang family couldn't help but have mixed feelings. How did things become like this? It must be known that their mood was quite high before, and they were also very happy that these masters could come to their families as guests. But in just a few days, the Yang family had caused a disaster. The depressed feelings of the Yang family members could not be described with words. Lung Ruoxue and the demon had been watching them from the side. Both of them knew their thoughts like the back of their hands. After a tacit exchange of glances, the evildoer spoke with a serious expression and cold voice. Although you've handed over the culprit, the Yang family didn't teach their daughter well, so we can't let them off easily. There's only one way to appease the anger of us husband and wife. You should know that, right? The demon deliberately didn't make his words too clear so that the Yang family members could imagine it in their minds. Sure enough, as soon as his words fell, the Yang family members, led by the Yang family's ancestor, looked even more dejected. How could they not know that this man was going to exterminate the entire Yang family? Oh, he didn't even leave a spark for their Yang family. However, my sons still have to participate in your elite competition, so we'll deal with you after the competition is over. Enjoy the few days of happiness you have left. Then, the demon changed the topic and continued. Although the evildoer didn't exterminate the entire Yang family on the spot and gave them a few days to rest, it was not good news for the Yang family, who knew that they would still die in the end. It was a huge torture for them. This feeling of knowing that one was about to die, but having no way to escape, was really too overwhelming. In the end, the Yang family members who were feeling extremely depressed had no choice but to leave under the demon and Lung Ruoxue's obvious intent to send their guests off. The moment the Yang family left, the demon immediately went to Lung Ruoxue's side and said with a fawning smile, "Honey, I've dealt with the main culprit. You're not angry with me anymore, are you? Am I angry with you?" Lung Ruoxue asked with a faint smile. No, I'm so obedient. Why will my wife be angry with me?" When the demon heard this, he hurriedly said, but then he drooped his head and said in a low voice, dejected, "Honey, you just said that you wanted to divorce me. This makes me so sad. Honey, how can you have such thoughts? Our marriage has been confirmed by an oath. We will never divorce. Then why are you still sad?" Lung Ruoxue looked at the evildoer calmly, waiting for him to continue. "I'm sad because my wife said those words. Honey, you've hurt my fragile heart. Shouldn't you make it up to me?" The evildoer revealed his motive as Lung Ruoxue had wished. Then he smiled at his wife, who had a look of "I knew it" on her face. "It's a must. Then you can do the laundry, cook, and warm the bed. Oh, you also have the function of keeping warm in the winter and cool in the summer. Not bad." Lung Ruoxue intentionally sized up the evildoer as she laughed evilly. "Honey, I want you to compensate me, not punish me," the demon said with a bitter face. "Do you think doing something within your power for your wife is a punishment?" Lung Ruoxue squinted her beautiful eyes and asked in an unfriendly tone, No, I'm willing to do anything for my wife, even if it means going through a mountain of daggers or a pot of boiling oil." The demon was afraid that his wife would get angry, so he quickly said, "Cheap dad, look at you." At this moment, a clear child's voice came from outside the living room. Hearing this, the demon's face immediately darkened. This devilish brat. Wouldn't he feel uncomfortable if he didn't find an opportunity to insult him? Thinking of this, the evildoer immediately strode out of the hall and grabbed Rui Sheng, who was watching the show leisurely and had no intention of running away. He raised his big palm and smacked Rui Sheng's little tender bottom a few times. Immediately, Rui Sheng burst into tears and cried loudly, "Mom, this bad guy hit your precious son." When Lung Ruoxua heard her son's words and sobs, she couldn't help but feel a little annoyed. This little brat, he would bully his father whenever he had the chance. However, in order to cooperate with her son, Lung Ruoxua still walked over and took her son from the evildoer's arms. With his mother's warm embrace, Ruoxing buried his head in his mother's shoulder and looked up from time to time. He blinked his clear black eyes and looked at the evildoer provocatively. The evil demon was furious, but this was his own son, so he naturally couldn't really hit him. It was just that this devilish brat liked to act too much, and even though the couple knew this, they still had to cooperate, so that this brat would think that his plot had succeeded. In an instant, the demon couldn't help but sigh. It was not easy to raise a child, and it was even more difficult to raise a brat who liked to go against himself. However, he was still her son, so she still had to dote on him. The demon was helpless. Lung Ruoxua was stuck between the father and son, which gave her a headache. She had really coaxed the young and the old and was not idle at all. There was nothing that could really make her worry less. The dejected Lung Ruoxua gave the evildoer a look, and the evildoer left the living room alone with an aggrieved expression. Lung Ruoxua, on the other hand, played with her 3 sons for a while and coaxed them to sleep before returning to her room. When they entered the room, the evil demon put on an aggrieved expression once he saw that his wife had returned. Lung Ruoxu's head started to hurt when she saw this. Wifey, seeing that Lung Ruoxu didn't have much of a reaction, the demon could only call out softly. His starry eyes were looking at Lung Ruoxua with affection. Lung Ruoxu's heart started beating wildly. She couldn't take it when he seduced her like this. Lung Ruoxua wanted to escape, but before she could do so, the demon pulled her into his arms. The next day, the elite competition hosted by the Yang family continued. Before the official competition, all the ancient martial arts families had reached an agreement to agree to the request of the Yang family's ancestor. According to the thoughts of all the families, how could they not win against 3 little babies with so many families working together? If that was the case, why were they still in the ancient martial arts world? They might as well just kill themselves. Just like that, they agreed to the 500-year agreement. When the Yang family's old ancestor heard this news, he wasn't very happy because even if the Yang family won this bet, they wouldn't be able to enjoy it. Chapter 31-32. Are you alone? 2. Seeing the Yang family's ancestors' conflicted, dark, and lonely face, the families that had agreed to this competition were instantly overjoyed. They knew that the old man from the Yang family was just holding on. In order to make the 3 little children happy, he actually used the rise and fall of the family for 500 years as a bet. If this was not courting death, what was it? However, since the bet had been agreed and the agreement had been signed, there was no reason for the old man from the Yang family to go back on his word. At this moment, all the ancestors of the families decided that the agreement would take effect immediately. All the ancient martial arts families were secretly happy. In fact, how could a Yang family ancestor not know what they were thinking? But at this time, he knew the pain in his heart, and he could not say it out loud. It was clearly a good thing, but he couldn't smile. At this time, the elder who had a good relationship with the Yang family's ancestor walked to his side with a worried look and asked, What happened? Are you afraid that the 3 cute little kids will lose the competition? This old man's family was the only one among all the ancient martial arts families that did not participate in the huge bet. At the same time, he had the best relationship with the Yang family's ancestor. Now that he saw the Yang family's ancestor's sad face and dark circles under his eyes overnight, He couldn't help but be worried. What kind of big thing had happened to make the Yang family's ancestor so worried? No, the Yang family's old ancestor smiled bitterly. He couldn't tell this to outsiders. What's that? We've been old friends for so many years. If you need any help, just tell me. Please don't be polite. The old man said straightforwardly. It's nothing, just some family matters. Don't worry, I can handle it. The Yang family's old ancestor said perfunctorily. Hearing this, the old man immediately became unhappy and said, Old man Yang, we've known each other for so many years. How could I not know you? If it wasn't for something big happening, you wouldn't have shut your mouth like a clamshell. Tell me quickly, what's the matter? We can discuss and solve it. You can't help me with this. Hearing the old man say this, the Yang family ancestor could only say, I can't help. The situation is so serious that even the combined strength of our two families can't do it. The old man asked in disbelief. The Yang family's old ancestor nodded and then whispered, If you insist on getting involved, you might bring a fatal disaster to the family, so you don't have to worry about this matter. In the future, just remember to burn incense for me during the New Year and other festivals. The old man's face changed slightly when he heard this. He couldn't help but widen his eyes and look at the Yang family ancestor in disbelief. Is this his funeral? What exactly? The old man still wanted to ask, but just as he said two words, the Yang family's old ancestor pressed on his shoulder and said, Don't ask. I'm doing this for your own good. All right, don't worry. If that day really comes, it'll take care of the Yang family. The old man promised. The Yang family's old ancestor was afraid that his old friend would be worried, so he could only nod. In his heart, he couldn't help but think, in the future, there will be no Yang family, so what's the point of taking care of them? However, he didn't dare to say this out loud. Otherwise, his old friend would definitely be shocked. After a brief exchange with his old friend, the ancestor of the Yang family adjusted his mood and led the ancestors of the ancient martial arts families to the honored guest seats. Along the way, the elders of the Yang family that the ancestors of the ancient martial arts families met were all listless and dispirited. This strange scene made the ancient martial arts families very curious. They couldn't understand what was going on with the Yang family. Why were they all like frost-covered eggplants, wilting? After sitting down in the guest seat, the Li family's ancestor, who had specially sat next to the Yang family's ancestor, nudged the Yang family's ancestor's arm and winked at him with a smile. Your Yang family couldn't have failed to reach a consensus, right? What do you mean? The Yang family's old ancestor was puzzled. Look at all of you frowning. Aren't you all afraid of losing? The Li family's elder laughed evilly and continued. However, I have to say something about this matter. It's good to have different opinions in the family, but you can't just rely on your status as the Yang family's ancestor to make your own decisions. It's best if the family's opinions can be unified when encountering problems. This way, there won't be any family conflicts. You think I'm like you? To tell you the truth, I'm not afraid of losing. And it's not that our Yang family can't afford to lose. The Yang family's old ancestor was already in a bad mood, and after being provoked by the Li family's old ancestor like this, his anger immediately rose. TSK, you really want to keep your face and suffer. If you're not afraid of losing, why do you look like your relatives have died? Look at each and every one of you. How haggard you look. The Li family elder pointed at an elder and said, I was too excited yesterday and didn't sleep well. Is that not okay? The Yang family's old ancestor roared. You all didn't sleep well? Isn't this too much of a coincidence? Li clan elder clearly didn't believe him. It's up to you to believe it. I can't be bothered with you. You'll know when the time comes. After the Yang family's old ancestor said this, he turned his head and no longer paid attention to the Li family's old man who was looking for trouble. At the same time, the elite competition continued. The three who had known about this long ago were already waiting on the stage. However, they had arrived a little early, so after waiting for more than half an hour and seeing that no one had come up to the ring to challenge their brothers, they were a little impatient. Among them, Rue Sheng and Rue Zi kept pacing around the spacious ring with their hands behind their back. Their beautiful little faces were full of dissatisfaction and unhappiness. Only Rue Jean was still calmly eating his fruit, as if it was none of his business. In fact, he was also very anxious. However, he used his glutton nature to cover up his dissatisfaction and gave people a rather harmless feeling. The Yang family's ancestor, who was sitting in the guest seat, saw this and quickly called over an elder in charge of the competition. He instructed him to skip all the cumbersome steps and start the competition immediately. Towards the Yang family's ancestor's eagerness, the Li family's ancestor sitting beside him was extremely puzzled and sneered, "Old man Yang, are you in such a hurry to serve us for 500 years? Yep, you should be secretly happy." The Yang family's old ancestor obviously wasn't in the mood to bicker with the Li family's old man, but the Li family's old ancestor still didn't want to let him go and continued to provoke him. "Of course, we will be happy. At that time, our big families will also use your Yang family members well. Don't worry, we will not let you have a moment of idle time. All right, it'll be waiting," the Yang family's old ancestor angrily said, and then no longer said anything. The Li family's elder felt that it was not interesting, so he also obediently watched the competition. The match began very quickly after all the opening steps were omitted. However, the three Pucci waited for a few minutes, but none of their opponents stepped into the ring. This made the three Pucci unhappy again. As the eldest brother, Saint Rue looked up at the Yang family's old ancestor in the honored guest seat. The meaning in his clear black eyes was very obvious. Where is he? Where were the people they beat up in the competition? Seeing the anger in the little guy's eyes, the Yang family's ancestor couldn't help but wipe the cold sweat on his forehead. Then he looked at the ancient martial arts family's ancestors sitting beside him and said, "If your family doesn't send out a participant, how is the competition supposed to proceed?" The ancestors of the major ancient martial arts families were also somewhat dissatisfied with the Yang family's ancestors' complaint. How could they be blamed? It's the family's little ones who are unwilling to be the first to go up the ring to compete with the three milk babies. In fact, the ancestors of the ancient martial arts families did not expect that the juniors of their families would be unwilling to fight first because there were three babies in the ring. These little bastards. Didn't he already know about it? Why are you being so pretentious now? In fact, what the ancestors of the ancient martial arts families didn't know was that the younger generation of their families had been quite angry with the Yang family's proposal at first, thinking that it was an insult to them. They had also decided to teach the Yang family a hard lesson with the intention of making the Yang family look bad. But what they didn't expect was that when they really faced these three tender and cute children, they were all scared. He could not be terrified. Even if they were angry in their hearts, they didn't have the face to fight with the three children in the ring. Therefore, they started to shirk responsibility to each other, thinking that it would be best if they could avoid this matter. Even if they couldn't avoid it, they absolutely couldn't be the first to enter the ring. If that happened, how could they face the elders of Jiangdong in the future? Moreover, if the news of them winning against the three children got out, it would not be a good thing to bring honor to their ancestors. If others knew, they would only say that they were bullying the weak. It was for these reasons that the juniors of the major ancient martial arts families were not very willing to go on stage. If they really couldn't win, they absolutely couldn't go on the stage first. And if they didn't go up, the three of them would have to wait in the ring with their eyes wide open. Seeing that time was passing by, the Yang family's old ancestor was extremely anxious. If these three little treasures were to go crazy, the consequences would be unimaginable. After thinking for a moment, the Yang family's old ancestor said, "Everyone, if the participants from your families don't enter the ring within 10 minutes, it will be equivalent to them forfeiting the match, and they will be judged to have lost." Hearing this, the ancestors of the ancient martial arts families became anxious. Forfeiting? That was absolutely impossible. With no other choice, the ancestors of the ancient martial arts families could only personally go to persuade the younger generation of their families. Unfortunately, even if they were to dry their mouths, no one was willing to stand out bravely. In the end, the major families could only decide the order of the fight by drawing lots. If they still refused to go up, they would be expelled from the family. It had to be said that the final announcement was still very useful. The drawing of lots to determine the order of appearance was also very fair. However, some people were happy, while others were sad. The person who drew the first to appear seemed to have suffered a major blow, and his expression was one of unwillingness. However, no matter what, the three Poochie finally met their match. "You're alone." Looking at the young lady walking slowly up the ring, Saint Rouet asked in dissatisfaction. "Yes, I'm the first one," the young woman replied. She looked at the three little babies' eyes, and her pink heart kept jumping. Cute. They were really too cute. Such a cute little babe. How could she bear to do it? Schwa schwa schwa. Chapter 31-33. Will you be my sons? 1. The young woman was very sad, but who could she blame for her bad luck? However, it was impossible for her to attack the three babies. She couldn't do it. Thinking of this, the woman decided to respond to all changes by staying the same. After thinking about it, she planned to chat with the three children and get closer to them. At that time, the three little children might take the initiative to admit defeat, and she wouldn't have to be so troubled and conflicted. After preparing what she wanted to say, the young woman put on a friendly and harmless smile and said to the three, "Little babies, Annie will bring you to play." "Okay, play." When the three of them heard this, they couldn't help but look up at the woman. They were here to beat people up, not to play. Besides, what's so fun about this self-proclaimed Annie in front of me? The young woman's words made the three of them feel baffled. Seeing that the three of them didn't say anything and only frowned as they looked at her with a conflicted expression, the woman's love for them grew even stronger. "Little babies, can you be my sons? It'll definitely make you the happiest little kids in the world." The young woman couldn't help but say as she looked at the three of them and liked them more and more. Be a son? The three of them were stunned. Was this person not here to fight with them, but to snatch their dear mother's son? In an instant, the three of them sympathized with their poor mother. Why were these women either trying to snatch their mother's man or their son? Moreover, they were not really those little children who knew nothing and only knew how to eat and sleep all day. Was it really good for this grandmother to lie to them like this? The three of them looked down on the person in front of them. However, the person in front of them didn't do anything bad to them, so they really couldn't just go up and beat him up. However, the three of them were extremely annoyed. So what if it was a competition? Why did he come to the ring to snatch their son? What was this? The three of them had completely discovered that the people here were not mentally normal. Otherwise, why would they always have whimsical thoughts? At the same time, the ancestors of the ancient martial arts families sitting in the VIP seats were also confused by the young woman's words. They did not know how to react. They were mainly surprised and didn't know what was wrong with this young woman, while the ancestor of the Yang family was speechless and full of black lines. He admitted that the three animals were so cute that he once had the idea of kidnapping them home. But that was just a thought, and he never succeeded. However, after knowing that the parents of the three animals were very powerful, he completely put down that idea. But now, it was obvious that there were some unlucky people who didn't know the truth and were fascinated by the three cute and beautiful appearances. AI. These three were beautiful and extremely cute on the outside, but they were little demons as black as ink in their bones. Whoever had designs on them, regardless of gender, would definitely not have a good end. It could be said that the Yang family's ancestor already knew the three of them quite well, because he had suffered a lot in their hands. But after suffering losses, he still treated the three of them as usual, even like a moth to a flame. He had no choice who asked him to be so willing. As for the current one, he didn't know how many people have been fascinated by the three little babies. The Yang family's old ancestor felt some sympathy for the young woman on the stage. However, he was in an extremely bad mood right now, so he would not say anything. And it just so happened that the young woman on the ring was sitting next to him. She belonged to Old Man Lee, who he hated and liked to go against him the most. As such, he could not wait to watch a good show. The Yang family's elder, who was ready to watch the show, quietly glanced at the Lee family's elder. He wanted to turn his gaze back to the ring. However, although his glance was very light, he was still discovered by the Li family's elder, who had been secretly observing him. The Li clan's elder smiled and said, "These three little children are indeed cute. No wonder even the granddaughter of my clan can't help but want to recognize them as her sons. How about it? Why don't we get married?" "What marriage?" The Yang family's old ancestor immediately asked with vigilance. "Send your three little kids to my house and let them be my live-in son-in-law. It's the most popular thing now." Li clan's elder said with a hint of pride, You old fart, to think you could think of this. Raise? These three children are only a little over a year old, and you already have ideas about them? I'm telling you, stop daydreaming. This is absolutely impossible." The Yang family's ancestor was furious when he heard this. However, he didn't dare to casually reveal the identities of the three parents, so he could only angrily refuse. "What's impossible? When your Yang family becomes a subsidiary family of our Li family, as long as we want these three beautiful little babies, you have to take the initiative to give them to us. This is the rule. Old man Yang, don't you understand?" Seeing that the Yang family's old ancestor was as angry as a rooster with its feathers blown up, the Li family's old man was extremely happy. In the confrontation between the two, old man Yang had the upper hand most of the time. Now, three little children could make him angry, which made the Li family's ancestor quite excited. "Rules my ass. I'm telling you, that's impossible." The Yang family's old ancestor angrily shouted, his face red with anger. "I've said it before, nothing is impossible. Forget it. I want to ask you for her now. After the Yang family becomes a subsidiary family of the Li family, they'll ask you for her. Let's see if you dare to refuse." The Li family's old ancestor was getting more and more proud as he spoke. If he had a tail, he would probably raise it to the sky. "I'm sorry, but your Li family will never have that chance." After saying this, the Yang family's old ancestor no longer paid attention to the Li family's old man, who was a little too smug, and turned his attention to the ring. At this time, Saint Ray, who was in the ring, suddenly turned his head and looked at the guests' seats. This glance immediately gave the old ancestor of the Yang family a bad feeling. Sure enough, just as he thought of this, he heard Rui Sheng suddenly cry at the top of his voice, "Mom, someone is going to fight with you for your son. Mommy, someone is going to steal Daddy from you and become our mommy. Mom, someone is trying to snatch your cute son as a live-in son-in-law. Dad, Mom, Grandpa, Uncle, Grandpa Drayan, you won't be able to see our three cute little ones." He knew it. Hearing what Saint Rui said, the old ancestor of the Yang family could not help but turn pale. Although this matter had nothing to do with the Yang family, there were many strong people who were unpredictable. Who knew if those two terrifying lords would blame this matter on the Yang family? The Yang family's old ancestor suddenly felt that he was very miserable. Why did everything have to be encountered by his Yang family? Glaring at the old man from the Li family who liked to provoke him, the Yang family's old ancestor said angrily, "All right, now our Yang family has your Li family as a companion." "What do you mean?" The Li family's old ancestor, who was also shocked by Saint Rui's words, asked with a confused look. He really didn't expect that his joke would be heard by the child. That little boy's ears were really good. Chapter 31-34. Will you be my sons? 2. Your Li family can clean up and wait for death. The Yang family's old ancestor said in an unpleasant tone, "Old man Yang, you've gone too far. I just made a few casual jokes. Do you have to curse our entire Li family? I really didn't expect you to have such vicious thoughts. To think that I've always treated you as a friend." The Li clan's elder said angrily, "I'm telling the truth. Why don't you believe me? Besides, do you really see me as a friend? I don't believe you at all. Also, I don't see you as a friend. I just know a lot of them." The Yang family's old ancestor said honestly. Elder Li was so angry that he couldn't speak. Very quickly, his eyes were also wide open. Because at this time, in addition to the three little children and the young woman, there was another handsome man with an extraordinary temperament on the ring. As soon as this man, who was like a banished immortal, appeared, all the women present were petrified. Pairs of watery eyes, filled with love, stared at the handsome banished immortal on the ring without blinking. Due to the immortal slaying man's sudden appearance, not only did it make many women infatuated, but it also shocked many people. Therefore, everyone forgot to think about how this person had appeared in the ring. "Uncle, you won't be able to see us. Someone is trying to rob us." Seeing Lung Ruhan suddenly appear in the ring, Rui Sheng immediately complained. The little devil in his heart had long laughed. "With me here, who would dare to rob you?" Lung Ruhan's expression turned cold when she heard this. "This old lady wants us to be her sons, and her family's ancestor wants us to be live-in son-in-law." "Uncle, is that live-in son-in-law the one Mom and Dad were talking about yesterday?" Saint Rui asked innocently. Lung Ruhan's face darkened when she heard that. "Oh no, my nephews. Can you not mention the words live-in son-in-law? Your father will fly into a rage. Why are they the same as the Yang family? They all want our man to be a live-in son-in-law. Uncle, do you want to be one?" Saint Rui ignored Lung Ruhan's helplessness and continued to speak. This time, Lung Ruhan was in a mess. What did this have to do with him? How did he get shot for no reason? "My nephews, did Uncle dote on you for nothing? You're putting your uncle in a trap like this? Uncle, are you willing or not?" Seeing that Lung Ruhan did not say anything, Saint Rui asked reluctantly. "Uncle," Lung Ruhan, who was about to be driven mad by Saint Rui, was about to answer when another shy voice interrupted her. "Am willing." The young lady who spoke immediately lowered her head, blushing. She did not dare to look at Lung Ruhan. Lung Ruhan was speechless. "What are you willing to do? It's none of your business, so why are you interrupting? You're willing to be a live-in son-in-law." Saint Rui obviously did not want to let go of this new topic and asked, "Brother, a live-in son-in-law should be a man. How can she be a woman?" Rui Zi asked. "That's true." Rui Sheng pretended to have just reacted. As Lung Ruhan looked at his two nephews' excellent performance, he started to pity the young woman. However, in order not to hinder his nephew's interest, he really could not speak casually. It was fine as long as his nephews did not set up a trap for him. Otherwise, he would fly into a rage. "I am willing to marry you." Seeing that her words had been misunderstood by the cute baby, the young woman quickly corrected her. "You're going to marry our father." Saint Rui was shocked. "We're done for. Our poor mother is going to go home again." Rui Zi also said loudly, "Brother, let's quickly pack up and leave with Mom." Rui Jin, who had been eating silently, also interrupted. Looking at the situation, Lung Ruhan's target of sympathy had changed to his poor brother-in-law. What was going on? What did it have to do with that evildoer? At this moment, Lung Ruoxue and the evildoer, who had been observing the situation on the stage through the screen, were so angry that they were gritting their teeth. If they had known that this would happen, they would not have given birth to these three devilish children. How could they be other people's sons? Instead of looking forward to him and his wife being in love, he was looking for an opportunity to make his wife leave him. What kind of stinky son was this? The demon was really about to die of anger. Lung Ruoxue could only try her best to comfort her husband, who was going crazy. In her heart, she was actually quite helpless. Her son liked to go against his husband, and both the palm and the back of his hand were meat. It would be difficult for her to help anyone. Such a fact made Lung Ruoxue deeply feel that she was the most difficult mother and wife in the world. Ever since their son was born, the father and son fight in their family had never stopped. It was foreseeable that such a situation would continue for many years in the future. It would only be over when his son got married and had his own family. AI, Lung Ruoxue sighed in her heart. At this moment, the young woman in the ring saw that the three children had misunderstood her meaning and hurriedly said, No, I'm willing to marry your uncle." The young woman spoke in a hurry. She lowered her head after she finished speaking. Lung Ruhan's face turned black when she heard this. When he came up to the ring, did he propose to this woman? He clearly didn't remember it. But how could it be misunderstood now? Lung Ruhan was not in a good mood. He even had the urge to beat someone up. On the other hand, the evildoer who saw everything through the light screen was in a bad mood. Looking at the evil demon laughing as he collapsed on the bed, Lung Ruoxue could only silently pity her pitiful brother in her heart. Her brother had clearly gone up to the arena to support the three disobedient children, yet he had unexpectedly gotten himself a cheap wife. One could only imagine how depressed her brother must be. Lung Ruhan was indeed depressed, and the three of them were a little unhappy too. They were obviously trying to mess with her cheap father, but why did it end up with their uncle? Unhappy, very unhappy. Are you sure you're going to marry our uncle and not dad? Saint Rue, who was very unhappy, confirmed. Yes. The young woman nodded. But my uncle doesn't want to marry you, so let's just fight. Saint Rue was angry and did not want to talk anymore. Faced with this sudden turn of events, the young lady was a little dumbfounded. On the other hand, Lung Ruhan could not help but smile. Her own nephew was really cute no matter how she looked at him. Lung Ruhan's smile instantly mesmerized the young woman, causing her to become infatuated again. Seeing this, Saint Rue was even more unhappy. Facing the female passerby who was infatuated with his uncle, he only had one sentence to reply to her: "Don't be a toad lusting after swan meat. How can you say that your uncle is a toad?" The young lady, who was brought back to her senses by Saint Rui's words, said with a face full of dissatisfaction. At this time, she saw that the three little babies were not as cute as before. How could a junior talk to an elder like that? The toad I was talking about was you. Rue Sheng patted his forehead and said speechlessly. He realized that women who were infatuated with him, other than being self-righteous, had a shockingly poor ability to understand. This time, the young woman could no longer keep a straight face. Soon, there was a burst of laughter around her. The woman's originally beautiful face was red with anger and even distorted. Which young and beautiful woman could stand being called a toad in public? You rude little brat. Didn't your parents teach you manners? Is this how you talk to your elders? The angry woman was so angry that she could not care about maintaining her gentle appearance anymore. She angrily pointed at Rue Sheng and shouted. She was wrong. These three children were not cute at all, and they were even detestable. Elder, is he referring to you? Saint Rue asked in confusion. Of course, the young woman nodded. But you're not my elder. May I ask, who are you to my family? Saint Rue continued to ask. Although I'm not related to your family, I'm older than you, so you have to respect me. The young woman said. Like this? But Mom said that some people don't need to be respected, like toads who want to eat swan meat. Saint Rue laughed evilly. Originally, they didn't have any deep enmity with this young woman, but he hated the words of the old man and the honored guests' seats too much. He actually wanted to raise them up and even want them to be live-in son-in-law. If they dared to plot against them, they had to have the ability to withstand the revenge of the three brothers. This was only the first step towards this woman, who asked them to be a family. Since young, the three brothers did not know that there was a cause for resentment and a debtor for debts. They only knew that no matter what means were used and where they started, it was enough as long as they could punish the bad guys. It was precisely because of this that this young woman, who was only infatuated with him, became the first person they wanted to attack. How could they not pay a price for having any ideas about them? However, Saint Rue did not expect this woman to reveal her true colors so quickly. Wasn't her change of attitude a little too fast? Where's your gentleness? Where's your kindness? Was he fed to pigs? Saint Rue expressed his disdain. The young woman, who had been provoked once again, was so angry that she had lost her mind, especially when she heard the laughter of the women around her. She hated the three children in front of her from the bottom of her heart. There was naturally no need to pamper an unlikable child. As the woman thought of this, she had already swiftly and fiercely attacked the three of them. The three of them calmly waited for the woman to pounce on them. Lung Ruhan, who was at the side, watched coldly from the side and did not move. On the contrary, some of the sentimental women watching the battle from below the ring couldn't help but worry for these three little children. No one had expected that the Leaf family's woman would be so provoked that she would attack so ruthlessly. Was there a need to treat three little children like this? He even used the Li family's ultimate move. He wanted to kill the 3 little babies. Chapter 31-35. Whose turn is it? Be careful. This is the Li family's unique skill. It can kill. All of a sudden, a voice filled with worry was heard. This voice was especially clear among the cries of surprise. However, Lung Rahan, who was on the stage, could not help but frown when she heard it. It was reasonable to say that the other party's reminder should have been out of good intentions, but they were clearly supposed to be fully focused on the competition. If they were disturbed by this sound, it would definitely disturb the state of mind of the participants. If it were not his 3 nephews on the stage at this moment, but someone with a weaker mind, they might have been affected by this sound. More importantly, the person who warned him was a woman. It was not that Lung Ruhan was looking down on the woman. It was just that although the woman's face was filled with worry, her eyes kept drifting towards him. This fact made Lung Ruhan exceptionally irritated. She really wanted to beat someone up. Lung Ruhan suppressed the displeasure in her heart and did not want to bother with the girl who was trying to gain advantage in front of him. However, who knew that the girls who were watching from below the ring actually imitated her and started to shout loudly, not to be outdone. For a moment, the entire competition ground became a sea of women's screams. The atmosphere was rather heated, and the gazes that were cast on Lung Ruhan looked as if they could not wait to strip him naked. Lung Ruhan's handsome face darkened bit by bit, and the 3 who had been disturbed were also particularly displeased. Rui Sheng was so angry that he pouted his little mouth and shouted at the top of his voice, "All of you shut up! I'll throw all of you out if you continue to argue. Women are so annoying and troublesome." Rui Sheng pouted his little mouth and said that he hated women, which made many people laugh. Some people even teased, "Little guy, you're still young. Of course you don't know the good things about women. Women are good? Well, there's some good ones, at least our mother is, but I don't dare to say anything about the ones outside the ring. I heard that a woman is equivalent to 500 ducks. Quick, count how many ducks are down there." Duck? After hearing this, many of the onlookers were speechless. It should be known that those who could come to watch the arena were all daughters of ancient martial arts families. But now, they were said by a little boy that each of them was comparable to 500 ducks. Who could accept this? Sure enough, a woman's face turned red with anger, and she shouted, "What do you know, you little kid? You haven't even grown your hair. TSK, this young master knows a lot. At least I know that you're shouting and yelling because of my uncle, but I want to tell you, don't have any ideas about my uncle. Don't even think about eating swan meat if you're a toad. By the way, toads are talking about you women, don't get it wrong." Saint Rue was not annoyed by the woman's words and replied with a smile. However, his words made the women below the ring angry enough. In just a short while, they also deeply felt that the little children in front of them were really not cute. But who asked them to have a good uncle? So the women were quite conflicted. If they really offended these 3 little children, they were afraid that they would not have any chance to be their auntie. AI, so depressed, so frustrated. The girls were about to go crazy. At this moment, an extremely calm voice was heard. "Brother, be careful. That crazy woman is running toward you." The one who said this was Rue Jin. At this moment, he was still calmly eating his favorite fruit, but his eyes had been focused on the young woman who had been a little crazy before. Now that he saw that crazy woman heading towards his brother, and his brother was busy chatting with the women below the stage, he had no choice but to speak up. Of course, when he said this, he was also a little dissatisfied. He was clearly sitting in the ring obediently and was acting like a quiet, beautiful man. He also looked weak. Why didn't that crazy woman attack him, but instead went to find trouble with his brother? Depressed. It was really too depressing. The foodie Rue Chiao was extremely unhappy. He felt that not only did that crazy woman have no taste, she was also looking down on him and ignoring him. At the thought of this, he glared at her with his dark, starry eyes and then threw the fruit core in his hand. The young lady who was running towards Rue Sheng fell to the ground before she could get close to him. Rue Sheng, who was ready to fight back, could only withdraw his leg awkwardly. He then looked at the young lady who had fallen to the ground and asked in surprise, What is this? Weak body? Are you hungry or tired? St. Rui's suspicion made most of the people in the VIP seats who noticed this scene feel helpless. At this moment, they deeply felt that this little guy was too bad. He clearly knew that it was his younger brother's doing, but he still pretended to be innocent. Was a weak body. This was clearly a scheme. However, when they saw the innocent and ignorant little boy in front of them, the people in the VIP seats couldn't help but roar in their hearts. Shameless. He's really too shameless. Who raised this two-faced little boy? Why are you so bad? At the same time, a few gazes also simultaneously floated to the Yang family's old ancestor, looking at him and directly exploding. Why are you all looking at me? There aren't any flowers on my face. The Yang family's old ancestor was so angry that he roared. Your Yang family's little kid is not simple. Seeing that the Yang family's old ancestor was peeved, an old man said in a very reserved manner, "That's right." Although the Yang family's old ancestor was depressed, he still proudly raised his head and said, "You're so smug. When the competition is over, let's see how your Yang family can continue to show off." The Li family's ancestor, who was sitting beside the Yang family's ancestor, couldn't bear to see the Yang family's ancestor being so proud, immediately provoked him. At the mention of this, the Yang family's old ancestor became a little listless. The pain in his heart was not enough to be explained to outsiders, but at this moment, he didn't dare show it on his face, so he could only force a smile and say, "I'm thinking of waiting for the competition to end so that your families can quickly send people to participate in the competition. If you continue to dawdle, the sky will turn dark. What are you so anxious about? Isn't the Li family still in the ring?" Another old man reminded. The Li family, the ancestor of the Yang family, was about to say that the Li family would leave the ring very soon. However, before he could say this, he saw that the young woman of the Li family, who could not stand the stimulation of St. Rui's words, rolled her eyes and fainted. Then, she was kicked off the ring by St. Rui. This time, the Yang family's ancestor didn't even need to say anything. The other family's ancestors all had ugly expressions as they waited for the next contestant to come up the stage. The ancestors of the various ancient martial arts families had many complaints about this disappointing junior of the Li family. This had also disrupted their plans, making them quite dissatisfied. More importantly, they didn't know why, but they felt a faint sense of uneasiness in their hearts. At this moment, on the arena, St. Rui was also depressed, because before he could even kick her, that crazy woman had been finished off by his brother's fruit core. This made him feel no sense of accomplishment. No, the next opponent must be him. St. Rui looked resentfully at Rui Yin, who was still gnawing on the fruit, and his eyes were very firm. Although his idea was beautiful, it was a pity that Ruizi also had the same idea, and he acted a little earlier than him. The opponent, who had just stepped onto the ring, did not even have the time to say his opening remarks before he was kicked off the ring by a shadow that suddenly flew to his side and fainted. Then the shadow stood still on the stage and shouted at the contestant seats, "Next!" At this time, the disciples of the ancient martial arts families who were sitting in the contestant seats were at a loss. After all, they were in the ring, so shouldn't they go through the necessary procedures? Shouldn't the polite words be said in a few simple sentences? But why did he kick him without saying anything? Could this match still be enjoyable? Next, whose turn is it? Seeing that no one was paying attention to him, Ruiz asked again, but unfortunately, no one answered him. Such a situation made Rui's pretty and cute little face become serious. How detestable! These people actually dared to ignore him. Ruizi was very angry. The consequences were very serious. Then he stretched out his little hand and pointed at the disciples of the ancient martial arts families in the contestant seats. He shouted with a majestic aura, "All of you, come at me together." All together? This time, the participants from the ancient martial arts families were so depressed that they wanted to scratch the wall. It wasn't that they couldn't gang up on him, but it also depended on who they were up against, right? They couldn't get past the barrier in their hearts if they were asked to gang up on three little children. How strong must one's mental endurance be to be so thick-skinned as to bully the three little kids? However, it was obvious that the child in front of him was serious. Furthermore, he was very serious. Seeing that they didn't respond for a long time, Rue's beautiful little face darkened. The furious Rue Z simply jumped off the high ring and ran towards the ancient martial family's contestants. When the participants from ancient martial arts families saw this, they just looked at the actions of the little boy in front of them in a daze and felt puzzled. What was he trying to do? What could he do? Of course, I'm going to challenge you all one-on-one. As triplets, Rue Sheng and Rue Qiao understood what Rue Z meant. He couldn't wait. In fact, they couldn't wait any longer. The opponent was too long-winded and not decisive at all. It was just a fight. Why was she being so coy like a big girl? However, compared to Rue's anxiousness, the two of them were still very calm. As soon as Rue Z ran to the ancient martial arts family contestants, he first stretched out his right fist and punched the unlucky guy on his left, then turned around and kicked the waist of someone on his right. Suddenly, two painful groans sounded, and the small faces of the two people who were hit first turned pale. The intense pain in their bodies made them almost unable to stand steadily, and their eyes were filled with disbelief. Rue Z directly ignored the two people's slightly panicked gazes and instead showed off his skills and mixed into the crowd, killing in all directions. In a short moment, the contestant area was stirred into a pot of porridge by a small person. Seeing this, Rue Sheng and Rue Yin also jumped off the stage and rushed into the contestant area. If they didn't attack now, they wouldn't have the chance to fight anymore. The three children were like a competition as they went up on stage. Lung Ruhan, who had been standing quietly on the stage, could not help but frown when she saw the chaotic scene in front of her. My nephews. He was really impatient. He was also becoming more and more violent. Chapter 31-36. Not entering the ring doesn't count as a win. Lung Ruhan couldn't help but sigh. Her nephews' personalities were really like that evil man's. Of course, the three of them would definitely not be willing to let Lung Ruhan think that way. However, they could not be bothered to figure out their uncle's thoughts at this moment. They only wanted to fight to their heart's content. Although this was a bit of a bully, they were always the ones being bullied when they fought with their cheapskate dad and the others, so they enjoyed the feeling of bullying. Moreover, they were just three little kids, so they didn't feel guilty at all for bullying others. It was just a fight. They were just winning with their numbers. The three of them were having a good time, but the contestants from the ancient martial arts families, who were sandbags, felt extremely depressed. None of them had expected that these three little children would actually have such strength. This was great. They had embarrassed themselves. So many people were actually being chased around by three little children. This kind of situation simply made people not dare to look straight at it. Not only that, but the three babies specialized in face smacking. So at this moment, everyone's faces were more or less injured. Their seriously injured faces were so swollen that they could not be seen. Even so, the three of them did not intend to stop here. After all, such an opportunity was too rare, and they had waited long enough. Therefore, according to the three of them, they had to take back their capital. As a result, the participants from the ancient martial arts families were in trouble. The three of them didn't even care about gender when they beat people up. Regardless of whether they were men or women, they received the same treatment. It could be said to be fair and just. However, even if the three children were fair and just, the ancestors of the ancient martial arts families sitting in the VIP seats were quite upset when they saw their own children being chased by the three little children. This scene was really too ugly. To put it nicely, the adults were giving in to the three little children, but this was just deceiving themselves and others. People with discerning eyes could see that this was clearly their own children who had no ability to fight back and could only run around. Old Man Yang, your three kids are not simple. At this time, the Li family's ancestor, who was sitting next to the Yang family's ancestor, was the first to speak. From his tone, his words were very calm, but the Yang family's ancestor, who knew him well, knew that this old man was starting to look for trouble again. After hearing this, the Yang family's old ancestor's face remained calm and composed, but his heart was still bitter. These three were not simple. With parents like that, it would be strange if he was simple. AI. Although the current situation was very advantageous to the Yang family, the Yang family's old ancestor was facing the unknown future of the Yang family, so he couldn't be happy. However, he didn't want outsiders, especially his archenemy, to see through him. Thus, even though his heart was heavy, he could only put on a relaxed and happy expression. Of course, there are no simple children in the Yang family. His arrogant tone made the Li family's elders' anger rise. If he could, he really wanted to curse out loud, but now was obviously not the time. Trying his best to control his anger, the Li family's elder spoke again. Old man Yang, although your three little kids are not simple, they are also a bit dishonest. How could they not follow the rules in such an official competition? What would happen to the families that would host the competition in the future? If every participant learns from your Yang family, wouldn't the elite competition be a mess? What do you mean by that? Hearing the Li family old man's words, the Yang family's old ancestor immediately asked with a vigilant look. He knew the old man from the Li family too well and knew that he was up to no good. What I mean is, don't think that these three kids have won just like that. The competition still needs to be decided in the arena. Li clan's elder said indifferently. In the arena? If I'm not mistaken, you still want those guys who are scurrying around to fight with the three little guys in the arena? The Yang family's old ancestor asked with uncertainty. Although he had long guessed that some ancient martial arts families would not admit defeat so easily, he did not expect the Li family's elder to be so shameless. It was obvious that the winner of this competition could be determined at a glance, but he still wanted to turn the tables. Moreover, it was obvious that the Li clan elder's words had received the approval of many old fellows. Looking at those ancestors of the other ancient martial arts families who didn't speak, but their expressions clearly revealed their thoughts, the Yang family ancestor couldn't describe the feeling in his heart. These guys who wanted to save face at this time still wanted to struggle. Was there any meaning to this? The Yang family's ancestor decided to look down on them. But at this time, he heard the Li family's ancestor say, shamelessly, "What do you mean by running around? If you don't know how to speak, then don't use random words, okay? This is clearly our family's younger generation giving way to your family's three little children. So this can't be considered their victory." Since he had already said so much, the Li family elder decided to go back on his words. In any case, he was certain that the Yang family old man couldn't eat him. However, fortunately, the Yang family's ancestor knew the Li family's ancestor too well, so he wasn't surprised at all by his words. On the contrary, if the other party didn't act so shamelessly, the Yang family's ancestor would really be worried. However, the Yang family's old ancestor still deliberately said angrily, "Give way to our three children? Old man Li, don't you feel guilty for saying such words? Or could it be that all of you agree with old man Li's words and think that it's the younger generation in your own family who's giving way to these three little kids?" After angrily criticizing the Li family's ancestor, the Yang family's ancestor deliberately went to ask the other ancestors present. After being asked this way, a few of the shy ancient martial arts family's ancestors immediately blushed. However, they were now on the same boat as the Li family, and the current situation was quite unfavorable to the ancient martial arts families. Therefore, even though they knew that denying it would be very shameless, they still firmly stood on the side of the Li family's ancestor. The Yang family's old ancestor, who had already expected this result, was even angrier. Then, everyone heard him shout, "All right, I've only truly gotten to know you today, and we can't even be friends in the future. In addition, tell me now, how can I convince you to admit defeat? I'm giving you a chance now. If you still want to go back on your word, don't blame me for being impolite." The Yang family's ancestor had given the last order to all the ancient martial arts families, but at this moment, none of the ancient martial arts families dared to open their mouths easily. After all, this would determine the future of their families. If so many families joined forces and still lost to those three little kids, They would really have no face to stay in the ancient martial arts world in the future. You guys should talk. I'm giving you a chance. Seeing that the ancient martial arts families were acting dumb, the Yang family's ancestors shouted angrily. Hearing this, the ancient martial arts families couldn't help but look at each other. After communicating with each other with their eyes for a long time and reaching a tacit understanding, the Li family's ancestors spoke on behalf of them. We have to decide the winner in the arena. If our disciples lose to your 3 children in the arena, we will be convinced. Is this true? The Yang family's old ancestor asked with a puzzled look. It's true, old man Yang. Do you doubt my credibility? The Li family's elder saw that the Yang family's elder didn't believe him, so he was quite angry. You still have a reputation? The Yang family's old ancestor sneered after hearing this. This guy could go back on his word at any time, and he still had the nerve to talk about credibility with him. What a joke. Of course. Li Clan's elder nodded his head with certainty. But I don't believe you. All of you, write a written pledge for me. If you continue to act shamelessly, it'll make your actions public. At that time, it'll see how you'll still have the face to stay in the ancient martial arts world. The Yang family's ancestor requested. Hearing that they had to write a written pledge, the faces of the ancestors of the ancient martial arts families turned ugly. After all, their ancestors had been famous for many years and were well respected in the ancient martial arts world. Now that they were being questioned like this, they couldn't help but feel embarrassed. However, the current situation was very obvious. If they didn't write a written pledge, the old man from the Yang family wouldn't let this matter rest. The ancestors of the ancient martial arts families communicated with their eyes again. In the end, it was the Li family's ancestor who came forward and said, "We can write a written pledge, but you have to write one too. What should I write?" The Yang family's old ancestor was amused by these words. His serious face was full of confusion. You have to promise that your 3 children won't do the same thing again. They have to defeat our children in the arena fair and square to win. The Li clan elder requested. The Yang family's old ancestor was a little embarrassed. Those 3 little things would not listen to him. At the thought of this, the Yang family's old ancestor's gaze could not help but drift to Lung Ruhan, who was on the stage. He believed that the conversation between the various ancient martial arts families would definitely not be hidden from this person. He used his eyes to ask for Lung Ruhan's opinion. After getting Lung Ruhan's nod of approval, old ancestor Yang was finally at ease. Soon after, the Yang family's old ancestor agreed. I can write a written pledge, so don't even think about going back on your word. In this way, the ancient martial arts families who had reached an agreement added their own written pledge to the agreement that had already been signed. In the distance, the 3 who already knew the outcome of this matter were rather impatient. What the hell is this? They had clearly won, but now the other party was denying it. This situation made the 3 of them very, very angry. However, since his uncle had already agreed to this, they had to give him face. The 3 of them returned to the ring angrily with their pretty little faces. The people who had been beaten up by them did not dare to approach the ring. They were already afraid of the 3 of them. Don't waste the time of the young masters. Hurry up and fight with us. Otherwise, we won't win. Seeing that the punching bags under the ring didn't respond, Saint Rue said angrily, "That's right. Hurry up and get on the stage. This is an opportunity that your ancestors have fought for you to lose fair and square. Don't waste it." Ruiz, who was also unhappy, also said venomously. After being told off by the 2 little kids, the expressions of the punching bags below the ring were very interesting. Most of them were not as thick-skinned as their ancestor. At this moment, they wished they could just faint. This was really too embarrassing. Unexpectedly, the foodie Rue Chiao, who had been in a bad mood, did not plan on letting them go. She took a bite of the fruit and said, "Ants, hurry up and enter the arena. If you really don't want to fight, you can just admit defeat. Just don't waste any more of our precious time." Chapter 31-37. I just want to have a heart-to-heart talk with you. After the 3 of them spoke, their faces darkened and they maintained the same expression. They glared at the ancient martial arts family participants who were pushing each other around. After being stared at by the three of them with disdain for a while, the participants couldn't hold it in. If they could, they wanted to faint, but they were in good spirits. Should I pretend to faint? Many of the participants muttered to themselves. The three people standing on the stage could tell what some people were thinking, and they snorted coldly. Don't even think about pretending to faint. If you want to faint, you have to faint in the arena. Otherwise, it's not considered a win. These words fully expressed the anger and dissatisfaction of the three. When the many competitors below the stage heard this, how could they still have the face to faint? However, if they didn't faint, they didn't want to go up the ring and fight with the three fierce beasts. At this time, all kinds of feelings such as confusion, depression, and helplessness lingered in the hearts of the participants. They were very uncomfortable. Not only them, but some of the ancestors of the ancient martial arts families sitting in the VIP seats were also a little uncomfortable at this time. Many of the ancestors of the ancient martial arts families were dissatisfied with the three of them not giving them any face. They deeply felt that although the three little guys of the Yang family looked extremely cute, how could their words be so heart-piercing? Thinking of this, the ancestors of the ancient martial arts families all turned their eyes to the Yang family's ancestor. The meaning of criticism was quite obvious. As for the Yang family's old ancestor, he completely ignored these accusing eyes. Seeing the Yang family's ancestor acting dumb, the ancestors of the ancient martial arts families were even more dissatisfied, and someone even directly said, "Old man Yang, your Yang family's three little children are really sharp-tongued." In fact, he wanted to say that he had a poisonous tongue. He didn't say that he was leaving some face for the Yang family's ancestor. The Yang family's old ancestor didn't seem to care about these words at all, and even smiled. "Thank you for the compliment. However, you have all the time you want to praise the three little fellows. Right now, you should hurry up and get the participants from your respective families to enter the arena." This was too immoral. This is a competition. I hope you all can take it seriously. After the Yang family's ancestor finished speaking, he no longer paid attention to them. When the ancestors of the ancient martial arts families heard the Yang family's ancestors' words, their hearts were even more stifled. Were they trying to stall for time? It's clearly the three little kids of your Yang family who are too abnormal. Okay? Which family's child could fight in the arena? In an average family, such a young child might not even be able to walk steadily. However, these three had already beaten up the participants from the ancient martial arts families. Thinking of this, the ancestors of the ancient martial arts families felt depressed. What a bully. They were really bullying him. At this moment, all the ancestors of the ancient martial arts families felt that the Yang family was bullying them, using these three little children to fight in the arena. As long as their opponents were not cold-blooded, ruthless, and extremely evil, they would not easily do it. These three were definitely comparable to biological weapons and had great destructive power. Looking at the arrogant and angry three in the ring, for a moment, the ancestors of the ancient martial arts families almost sent their own children to the ring. However, as soon as they thought about how their children were walking unsteadily with snot flowing out of their noses, the elders immediately dispelled that idea. If they really sent their baby on stage, it would be even more embarrassing. AI. The ancestors couldn't help but sigh. They looked at the three with love and hate. Why didn't they have such descendants in their families? Why did all the good things go to the Yang family's old ancestor? It was not fair. It was so unfair. In an instant, the eyes of the patriarchs were filled with envy, jealousy, and hatred as they looked at the Yang family's patriarch. The Yang family's old ancestor could feel several burning and resentful gazes on him, but he could only sit calmly. In fact, he knew what those people were thinking, but he couldn't say anything because these three weren't his. At the same time, the three people in the ring felt that the old men in the VIP seats were communicating with their eyes, and the small flames in their hearts rose a little higher. As the big brother, Saint Rouet was naturally the first to express his dissatisfaction. He roared, "Are you guys done? If you want to send messages with your eyes, then send them back home. Let them get on the arena quickly." Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences. Yes, you'll have to bear the consequences. It's up to you whether you want them to take the initiative to go up to the ring or for us to make a move. Ruizi also followed. Ruei-jin, who was still gnawing on the fruit, saw that his two brothers had spoken up, so he didn't want to be outdone. Brothers, why are you wasting your breath on these old men? If it were up to me, I'd just exterminate them all. Ruei-shun's words made Ruei-shung and Ruei-zi speechless. They never knew that their little brother, who only knew how to eat, had become so violent. From this, it could be seen that this younger brother of his had already become impatient with these hesitant guys. In fact, they were also running out of patience. However, after their eyes met, they still said kindly, "Brother, we can't be so violent. We have to win them over with virtue." But they didn't give us a chance. Ruei-jin's pretty little face was full of grievance. Then let's be magnanimous and give them one last chance. If they don't grasp it, we'll wipe them out again. After thinking for a while, Saint Ruei said, "Okay, they'll listen to Big Brother." Ruei-jin nodded in agreement, then continued to gnaw on the fruit. The participants from the ancient martial arts families in the VIP seats and below the ring were really angry and depressed when they heard the conversation between the three. In their eyes, these three little kids were simply too arrogant. And you want to wipe them out all at once? All right. The contestants admitted that these three were very strong, but they didn't even want to let their own ancestor off. Wasn't this a little too much? Not only were the participants unhappy with the arrogance of the three, but the old men in the VIP seats who had been famous for many years and had a good reputation in the ancient martial arts world were also so angry that they were about to explode. These three little bastards were too arrogant. He should be properly tidied up. At this moment, all the ancestors of the ancient martial arts families had the same thought. The most furious among them, the Li family's elder, directly roared, "Three yellow-mouthed kids. They really don't know how high the sky is and how thick the earth is. Didn't the old man of the Yang family tell you to keep a low profile? If you like to show off so much in other places, I'm afraid you'd have been cut off long ago. How can I allow you to be so arrogant?" Hearing this, the three of them blinked innocently. Then Saint Ruei asked, "You mean if we say this in other places, we'll die?" "Of course," the Li clan elder said coldly, killing intent flashing in his eyes. At this moment, he wanted to kill the three of them. The three from Yang family were so young, but they were already so arrogant. What would they do when they grew up? In addition, the aptitude of these three was also surprisingly good. When they grew up, they would definitely be three disasters. In that case, these three little children could not be kept alive. While they had yet to mature, it could be said that the Li clan's elder thought that he had concealed his thoughts very well, but how could his little thoughts be hidden from the three on the stage and Lung Ruhan? However, Lung Ruhan still did not move. The three of them looked at each other and jumped onto the empty space in front of the VIP seats. The Li family's elder saw the three little children jump from the ring in front of him, and his heart suddenly skipped a beat. However, he still asked calmly, "What are you guys doing?" For some reason, Elder Li suddenly had a bad feeling in his heart, as if something was going to happen. "Nothing. I just want to have a heart-to-heart talk with you," Saint Ruei said with a smirk. "Heart-to-heart talk? What the hell are you talking about?" Li clan's elder was cursing in his heart, but he said, "I don't think we need to have a heart-to-heart talk. Of course, if your Yang family becomes my Li family's subsidiary family, then we can have a heart-to-heart talk. But now, let's forget it. Don't. It's better to talk now, because you might not have the chance to talk to us later." Saint Ruei continued with a smile. "Yes, let's talk now. It's still not certain who will become whose subsidiary family." The Yang family's old ancestor also calmly interjected. Originally, he was too lazy to argue with the old man from the Li family. However, if he did not make his stand clear now, he was afraid that the old man from the Li family would be even more lawless. As expected, the moment his words came out, Elder Li's face darkened by more than half. But before he could continue to argue, the already impatient Rui Qiao jumped up high and stretched out her short legs in midair, kicking Elder Li's face. His kick was full of strength. In an instant, Elder Li felt as if his face had been smashed by a 1,000-pound hammer. It was extremely painful, and half of his face instantly swelled up. The Li family's elder cried out in pain and quickly covered his face with his hands. His fierce and fiery eyes glared angrily at the innocent-looking Rui Qiao, and he roared in anger, "You little bastard! You actually dared to kick me. You're really tired of living." The Li family's old ancestor was truly angry. Without thinking, he reached out to grab Rui Qiao. Unfortunately, Rui Qiao was as slippery as a loach, easily avoiding the Li family's old man's angry claws. As he dodged, Rui Jin, who was nibbling on a fruit, continued to provoke him. I can't. Hee, come and catch me, you old beast." With a jump, Rui Jin ran out of the range of the VIP seats and stood in the distance innocently looking at the Li family's old ancestor. After taking a bite of the fruit, he even shouted, "Come and catch me, you old beast. Little bastard, don't you run." Li family's old ancestor knew that Rui Qiao was trying to goad him into action, but he still couldn't take it and chased after him. This time, Rui Qiao didn't hide anymore and allowed the other party to grab him. After catching Rui Jing, Li family's old ancestor said with a slight pride, "Little bastard, you can't run away this time, can you?" Rui Jing couldn't help but roll his eyes. He didn't even want to run, okay? In the next moment, Rui Qiao kicked out again, and with a bang, the other half of Li family's elder's face was kicked. Li family's elder was not prepared at all, and he did not expect that Rui Qiao would still have the chance to kick out even though he had her in his hand. After being hit again, he cried out in pain and fell back stiffly. Chapter 31-38. Rui Qiao's kick was even stronger than before, so Li family's old ancestor immediately fainted after he fell to the ground. Ancestor! When the Li family members saw this, they were instantly enraged. "Little bastard, you actually dared to injure our Li family's old ancestor." One of the Li family members shouted angrily, "Descendants of old beasts, I didn't hit him. I only kicked him once, no twice." Rui Jin said with an innocent look. Hearing this, the Li family members were even more furious. Was kicking and hitting different? In the hearts of the Li family members, there was no difference. Of course, in Rui Jin's heart, it was definitely different. Beating was done with hands, kicking was done with feet. How could hands and feet be the same? However, after the Li family's old ancestor fainted, the Li family members did not bother to argue with Rui Qiao. The old ancestor's fall into a trap had directly aroused the anger of the Li family members. So, there was no need to think too much. In an instant, the Li family members who wanted to avenge the old ancestor had surrounded Rui Qiao. Rui Jin faced the Li family's covetous gazes and said very calmly, "Please come up to the arena and beat me up. Otherwise, even if I win, this old man will not admit it." Rui Jin's expression showed that he didn't want to be beaten up for nothing, making everyone in the Li family extremely speechless. At a time like this little kid still had the mood to let them go up the arena? They'll go. Who's afraid of who? At this time, the Li family members did not care about Rui Jie's identity as a little boy. They all jumped onto the stage and put on a posture of wanting to teach Rui Jie a lesson. However, Rui Jin did not move for a long time. "Little bastard, you're not afraid, are you?" The Li clansmen saw that Rui Jie was still not on the stage and provoked him. "Descendants of old bastards am not afraid. I just have a question to ask," Rui Jin said with a conflicted expression. Seeing this, the Yang family's old ancestor quickly asked, "What's the problem? If I defeat that old bastard descendants in the arena, does it count as my victory?" Rui Jin asked with a conflicted expression. He was afraid that these people would renege on their debt, and then he would have beaten them up for nothing. "What do you guys think?" After the Yang family old ancestor heard Rui Ji's words, he turned to ask the others. And when the Li family members on the stage heard that Rui Jie's question was this, they were instantly so angry that their faces flushed red. What kind of question was this? He clearly didn't trust their credibility. Of course, it's the little guy's win. The elder who had a good relationship with the Yang family's ancestor took the lead. Hearing his words, the ancestors of the other clans had no choice but to nod in agreement. Seeing the elders nod their heads, Rue Jie was relieved. Then, he jumped onto the stage. "All right, you can gang up on me now," Rue Jean said with a face full of anticipation. Seeing his look of anticipation, the Leaf family members felt very conflicted. This little fellow in front of them was definitely someone who would not suffer losses. Didn't he see that when they called him a little bastard, he also returned an old bastard's descendant to them? However, this was obviously not the time to be calculative about how they addressed each other. After all, no one had the advantage in this regard. But when they really wanted to gang up on this little thing, they saw the other party's expression of anticipation of being beaten up by them. Who would feel good about this? Not only did they not feel good, but the Leaf family members were also quite depressed. Unfortunately, Rue Xian would not give them the chance to be depressed. Seeing that the other party did not make a move, his figure flashed, and he moved. Rue Jean's movements were extremely swift. Other than being afraid that his two older brothers would snatch his people away, he also wanted to end this battle that had already made him a little impatient as soon as possible. With every flash of Rue Qiao's body, a Leaf family member would fall. The Leaf family members who had not been affected saw this and attacked Rue Qiao in unison. Rue Ju did not panic, his body turning even faster. At the same time, more Leaf family members on the stage fell down. At this time, other than the ancestors of the various ancient martial arts families in the VIP seats, who could barely see Rue Ju's small figure, the other onlookers could only see a shadow quickly turning around on the stage. After more than 10 minutes, all the Li clansmen had fallen on the stage, and it was unknown whether they were dead or alive. Rue Jean, on the other hand, had an unsatisfied expression as he once again turned his gaze towards the VIP seats. The patriarchs of the various families who felt like they were being stared at by this little fellow all lowered their heads subconsciously, feeling extremely upset. It seemed that the little guy had already seen the benefits of angering them from the incident of angering the old man from the Leaf family just now. Therefore, they had to calm down and not be fooled like the old man from the Leaf family. Seeing that they were not looking at him, Rue Jean could only take the initiative to ask, "Did I just win? I'm asking you guys a question." The Yang family's old ancestor saw that no one was answering the little guy, so he helped to ask. The ancestors of the various families hated the Yang family's ancestor to death, but at this time, they obviously couldn't play dumb. "We won." Helplessly, the ancestors of the ancient martial arts families could only say in unison. "Then which one is next?" Rue Jean continued to ask. The ancestors of the ancient martial arts families looked at each other, but this time, they didn't say anything. "Who's up? Who dare to go up?" A little boy had beaten so many people from the Leaf family. Could they still take advantage of him if they sent people up? More importantly, he was just a little boy. If those three little children attacked together, the consequences... The elders of each family didn't dare to think too deeply about it. Pretending to be mute again, Rue Jean saw that no one answered him for a long time and became angry again. With a leap, Rue Jie once again jumped to the front of the VIP seats and looked at the various old ancestors with a face of dissatisfaction. The ancestors of the ancient martial arts families were scared by Rue Jie's resentful eyes, but none of them dared to stand out. "If you're not talking, then he'll beat you up together." Rue Jean's pretty little face was serious as he said, "That's a good idea." Saint Rue and Rue Z agreed. As soon as they finished speaking, the three of them reached out to the ancestors closest to them and grabbed their collars. Seeing this, the three old ancestors suddenly felt a little frightened and said in unison, What are you doing?" "Fight. We want to fight," Saint Rue said with a smile. Then, with a little force, the ancestor of the ancient martial arts family he was holding was directly lifted out of the VIP seat. Oh my God! Everyone who saw this scene instantly widened their eyes, and their hearts were filled with horror. They looked at the scene in front of them in disbelief. Was this still a little kid? It actually easily lifted an ancient martial arts expert by the collar. This This was clearly a baby-grade invincible iron, gold, and steel. And it wasn't just one, but three, because after seeing their brother's actions, Rui's and Ruiqiao also followed suit and pulled the old ancestor of an ancient martial arts family in front of them. The three ancestors of the ancient martial arts families who had been humiliated immediately blushed with shame. However, they found that they could not break free from the control of the three babies at all. This fact made them extremely frightened. Who could tell them what was going on? The three ancestors of the ancient martial arts families were roaring in their hearts, but no one could answer them. The three of them did not intend to answer them. They pulled the three ancestors of the ancient martial arts families in front of them. The three of them laughed heartily, and then, without saying a word, they punched the three of them together. Suddenly, their eyes swelled up. With a cry of pain, the three old men subconsciously reached out to cover their injured eye, while the other eye, which was intact, glared at the little boy who had hit them with raging flames. The three of them were not afraid. They just looked at each other's purple and swollen eyes thoughtfully. After a long time, Rui Z was a little depressed. It doesn't seem to be symmetrical. Yes, it's not very symmetrical. Saint Rui also nodded and said. Rui Jin had the same thoughts in his heart. However, he chose to be a quiet and handsome man, and let his two older brothers do as they pleased. Hearing what Rui Sheng and Rui Zi said, the three ancestors of the ancient martial arts families suddenly had a bad feeling. Sure enough, not long after the two brothers finished speaking, the three brothers, who had the same mind, once again punched together. This time, they hit the other eye of the three old men, which was still intact. Accompanied by three screams, the eyes of the three ancestors of the ancient martial arts families were swollen to the point that only a thin line was left. The anger in their hearts was even more surging. They had lived their lives as heroes, and they had never been treated like this. Unfortunately, before the three of them had a chance to get angry, they quickly threw out their fists again, and their fists rained down on the three ancestors of the ancient martial arts families. All of this happened very quickly, and the three powerful people who were considered to be highly respected in the ancient martial arts world did not have a chance to fight back before they were beaten to the point where they spat out blood and fainted. Ancestor. Seeing that their ancestor had also been beaten up, the three families' people were furious and turned to glare at the three. However, no one dared to act rashly. They were afraid that their own families would be beaten up like the Li family. But if they didn't do anything, would the three let them go? That was obviously impossible. Looking at the three old men who could not take a beating, the three felt quite regretful and turned their eyes to the three families. Rui even provoked, "Trash, your ancestors were beaten up so badly by us. Don't you want to avenge them?" Revenge? Of course they wanted to. However, as soon as they thought about how abnormal these three little fellows were, the three families could not help but hesitate. What to do? The three families couldn't help but exchange glances. They had experienced the strength of the three before and knew that even if the three families joined forces, they would not be a match for these three little bastards. What should they do? Just as the three families were in a dilemma, someone accidentally raised his head and saw several elders in the VIP seats. Immediately, as if he had found his savior, he loudly said, "Seniors, please uphold justice for our three families." With someone taking the lead, the members of the three families naturally followed suit. However, the ancestors of the ancient martial arts families who were still safe in the VIP seats hated the three families' request to death. Uphold justice? How would he host it? They couldn't even save themselves, all right. The patriarchs of each family knew very well that if they really did uphold justice for the three families, they would probably be the next to be beaten. Although they didn't know why the three children were so abnormal, they believed that four old ancestor-level powerhouses had already been killed by them. Who knew when it would be their turn? At this time, it was the best thing to do to protect himself. Was he going to sacrifice himself after becoming someone else? Were they really that great? Chapter 31-39. Forever Happy. 1. Obviously, none of the ancestors present had the spirit to sacrifice themselves for others. However, When the three of them heard the three families' pleas for help, they looked at the guests in the VIP seats with anticipation. Receiving the three fiery gazes, the elders of the various families sitting there felt a cold wind blow past them, as if they were being stared at by some unknown fierce beast. This feeling made them quite uncomfortable. Among them, many ancestors of ancient martial arts families couldn't help but lower their heads. They didn't dare to look at the three affectionate eyes, for fear that they would be stared at by the three if they were not careful. In fact, it was only a matter of time before they were targeted by the three, but now, after looking at them, they turned their bright eyes to the direction of the three families, and then heard Saint Rouet say, "If you want to take revenge for your ancestors, then get on the arena. What are you waiting for? Get on the arena?" The three families looked at each other in dismay, their hearts bitter as if they had eaten a yellow lotus. If they could really teach these three little kids a lesson in the ring, would they still be able to turn to other families for help? However, they also understood now that all the families present were terrified. AI. The three families kept sighing in their hearts. This time, no one was willing to be the first to stand out. Seeing them like this, the three of them were instantly enraged. A bunch of gutless guys. They didn't even dare to challenge three little kids? Truly trash. Feeling the anger of the three, the Yang family's old ancestor was so angry that he cursed these three families in his heart. However, he couldn't do anything if the other party didn't want to enter the ring, right? The Yang family's old ancestor's heart suddenly became extremely worried. At this moment, he suddenly noticed Lung Ruhan walking down the stage from the corner of his eye. This made his heart race. What was he trying to do? It was not just the Yang family's old ancestor who did not understand. Even the old men in the VIP seats had no idea what the handsome man in front of them, who was as beautiful as a banished immortal, was trying to do. Just as they were puzzled, Lung Ruhan had already gracefully walked to the three families' seats. Then the crowd saw him gently raise his hand, and the person closest to him was thrown onto the arena. Very quickly, one by one, the people were thrown onto the arena. This scene made everyone speechless. How could this be? Of course, the three of them admired Lung Ruhan's actions very much. "Uncle, you're so awesome." Saint Rouet quickly flattered. "Little guys, quickly end the battle. Don't waste your time with them." Lung Ruhan urged. "Uncle, we also wanna," but these guys aren't willing to go up the arena. Hearing Lung Ruhan's words, Saint Rouet said with a conflicted expression, "Aren't they going up now? After you defeat them, let the other families go up to the ring." Lung Ruhan said calmly. His words made the elders and the honored guests' seats particularly uneasy. What did he mean? Unfortunately, no one could answer their questions. All right. Hearing Lung Ruhan's words, Saint Rouet agreed readily. Then, he gave his two younger brothers a look and took the lead to rush to the center of the three families who were still in a daze after being thrown onto the ring by Lung Ruhan. Without giving the other party a chance to react, Rouet Sheng had already kicked one of them unconscious, and at the same time, his small fist hit the other person. Bang, bang, bang. With the three of them joining forces, the crowded stage was instantly reduced by more than half. The people who had not been hit by the three were all shocked by their thunderous methods and did not know how to react. After the three of them quickly finished off the people in the ring, their dark and bright eyes naturally turned to the VIP seats, making the hearts of the old men tremble. "All of you, come at me together," Saint Rouet suggested as he looked at the VIP seats. In fact, he had already said that. Unfortunately, no one took his words seriously. Now it was the last chance he gave these people. He just didn't know if they could take it. The ancestors of the ancient martial arts families heard what Saint Rouet said and were extremely conflicted. Could they defeat the three of them together? The elders of each family knew that even if the younger generation of their families attacked together, they would not be able to defeat these three children. If they also attacked, the consequences would be even more unpredictable. Of course, the uncertainty in their hearts did not mean that they were confident that they could defeat the three little children if they joined forces, but that they had no confidence at all. They were afraid that they would be beaten up as well if they made a move. Saint Rue didn't know about the conflict in the hearts of the ancestors, and he didn't want to care. However, seeing that these people did not respond to him for a long time, the little fellow became even angrier. However, before Saint Rue could speak, Rue threw away the core in his hand and shouted with his eyes wide open, "Are you going to the ring on your own? Or do you want my uncle to throw you into the ring?" A threat. It was a blatant threat. Hearing Rue Qiao's words, the faces of the people in the VIP seats darkened. After living for so many years, this was the first time they were threatened by a baby, and they could not take it lightly. They glanced at Lung Ruhan without batting an eyelid. The elders could not help but calculate Lung Ruhan's strength in their hearts. However, after thinking for a long time, they realized that they could not estimate the strength of the immortal-like man. The other party looked no different from an ordinary person, but everyone present had clearly seen his strength. It was just that the other party's strength was too unfathomable, which made them feel a little at a loss. Meanwhile, Lung Ruhan, who had been treated as a lucky charm and threatened, felt a dark cloud hang over her forehead after she felt several probing gazes. What did this brat take his uncle for? Saint Rue was also dissatisfied, because he suddenly realized that his gluttonous brother had learned how to steal his limelight. That was what he wanted to say. He'll give you 5 minutes to think about it. If you haven't come to a decision, he'll ask Uncle to throw you all into the ring. Rue Jin didn't care about what the people present were thinking. Seeing that the other party was playing dumb, he made the final announcement. Hearing this, Lung Ruhan's mouth twitched. This brat really treated her uncle as a coolie. However, Rue Qiao's last words were clearly somewhat effective. After the group of old men in the VIP seats heard his words, they immediately lowered their heads and started to communicate in whispers. About 3 minutes later, an old man stood up first and said, "The Zhao family admits defeat." The old man's admission of defeat made the three of them quite regretful and angry, but they couldn't do anything about it. It was not said that they were not allowed to admit defeat before the fight began. After that, the three of them turned their gazes to the others. The Zhao family's ancestors' admission of defeat made the other family's ancestors look down on him. It should be known that admitting defeat was equivalent to giving himself to the Yang family for 500 years. That was 500 years. Not 50 years, not 5 years, and not even 5 days. As long as they thought about how they would have to work like cows and horses for the Yang family for 500 years if they lost, those ancestors who knew that the three were very strong could not easily admit defeat like the Zhao family's ancestor. Chapter 3140. Forever Happy. 2. The three of them were overjoyed when they saw what they were thinking. However, they did not show it on their faces. Instead, they remained calm and waited for the other party to speak. A moment later, an ancestor of an ancient martial arts family finally asked, "Little guy, don't you regret asking us to come at you together? What are you regretting? Didn't I tell you all to come at me together? Why are you so wishy-washy? You really don't look like a man." Saint Rue said unhappily. Hearing this, the elders couldn't help but twitch their lips. This devilish brat, they were only asking, why was he so impatient? Patience? The three were long gone. Rue's face was filled with impatience. Don't talk nonsense. Quickly come and fight. We still have to go home for lunch after this. Lunch? They didn't eat well either, right? However, they weren't in the mood to have lunch at all. AI. The situation was too disadvantageous for them. Thinking of this, the ancestors couldn't help but look at the Yang family's ancestor, who was sitting as steady as Mount Tai. This old man should be in a good mood now, right? Receiving the other party's gaze, the Yang family's old ancestor bitterly smiled. He didn't need to explain the bitterness in his heart to outsiders. However, the other party obviously did not know what the Yang family was facing. Seeing the Yang family old man clearly about to win, but still acting like he was in deep pain and hatred, they were all instantly enraged. He did it on purpose. This damned old man from the Yang family was definitely doing this on purpose. With this thought in mind, the elders tacitly launched an attack on the Yang family's elder. The Yang family's elder was not careful and suffered a few punches. "What are you guys doing?" After the Yang family's old ancestor reacted and jumped out of the other party's attack range, he angrily questioned, "Yeah, what are you doing? Your opponents are us three brothers. You're not allowed to hit others." Seeing that those old men had ignored the three brothers, Saint Rouet was very angry. "Well, if you want to fight, you should fight in the arena, or you'll go back on your word again." Rouet also added, 5 minutes is up. Hurry up and get on the stage. Stop wasting time." Rouet Chun followed up and urged. When the elders heard the words of the three little fellows, they also revealed a bitter smile. Look at their children. They are so protective of their elders. Looking at his own, it was really infuriating to compare. The elders sighed and stared at the Yang family's elder with envy and jealousy. Then, they left the VIP seats and jumped onto the ring. Since they were going to fight, he would let them experience the strength of the three little children. "All of you come up." On the stage, the elders of each family called out to their juniors. Seeing that their own ancestors had gone up to the ring, the members of the various families also knew that they could not avoid it, so they could only brace themselves and go up to the ring. Seeing that the arena was instantly filled with people again, the three of them were in a good mood. "It would have been better if you had taken the initiative earlier. It would have saved us a lot of time." Although Saint Rouet was satisfied, he could not help but want to complain. "Little boy, don't say those useless things. You were the one who asked us to attack together. Don't cry when you're in pain." Hearing Saint Rouet's smugness, someone deliberately said, "Don't worry, we won't cry. I'm afraid you'll be the ones crying." Saint Rouet was neither angry nor annoyed and replied with a smile. "In that case, let's begin." An old man said, Yes, hurry up and make your move." The three mutants said in unison. They had long been impatient. As soon as he finished speaking, the family members on the ring collectively attacked the three. At this time, they didn't care that they would be laughed at if they ganged up on the three babies. For the reputation and interests of their families, even if these three were very monstrous, they had to fight. With this thought in mind, the members of each family were quite ruthless. They didn't even treat the three babies as their enemies. In their eyes, the three babies in front of them were their biggest opponents. Furthermore, this would affect the rise and fall of their clans for the next 500 years. As such, none of the clans dared to take this lightly. Seeing that their opponent was finally taking them seriously, the three of them were very excited and their mood was even better. After the real battle began, the three immediately entered into a state of mind. However, the three of them were very relaxed and deliberately teased their opponents. Therefore, at the beginning, the three of them could be said to be fleeing in all directions. Seeing that the three little children only cared about dodging and not fighting back, the old man who had a good relationship with the Yang family's ancestor couldn't help but worry for the three cute little guys. "I say, those old things are already on the stage. Aren't you going to help? Those three little fellows don't have the strength to fight back now." The old man reminded, "No need to help. The three little things will take care of it." The Yang family's old ancestor said, very assured, "I've never seen anyone act like an ancestor like you. Are you really not worried at all? What if the three little fellows lose the match?" The old man wanted to continue to persuade them, but he only spoke half of his words before he shut his mouth. He tried his best to open his eyes wide and look at the sudden change in the ring in disbelief. In almost the blink of an eye, a third of the people on the ring had been kicked off, but the three little guys were still alive and kicking in the ring. Although the old man knew that the little guy was very strong and had the ability to fight against more people with fewer people, the number of people in the ring now was obviously different from before. Even at the beginning, the three little guys seemed to be a little outmatched. How could the situation have a trend of reversal after he spoke a few words with his old friend? Wasn't this change a little too fast? The old man didn't dare to believe it, but the reality in the ring forced him to believe it. Then, seeing his old friend's calm and composed look, he could only put his heart at ease and patiently observe the changes in the arena. In the next 10 minutes, the number of people in the ring was reduced by nearly half. The range of activity of the three in the ring had also expanded a lot. Not long after, the juniors of the various families were all knocked off the stage, leaving the three opponents with only the ancestors of the various families. "I hope you guys could take a beating," Saint Rouet said with a smirk. After he finished speaking, he took the lead and attacked the old man closest to him. Seeing this, the old man who was attacked by him quickly tried to block it, but he was still punched in the chest by Saint Rouet. Suddenly, he felt as if his chest was 1,000 pounds heavy. After a muffled groan, he directly spat out a mouthful of blood. At this time, Saint Rouet added another kick and kicked the old man off the ring. Rouet Ze and Rouet Chiao followed suit and quickly kicked an old man down. The old men who were kicked off the stage all spat out blood and were quickly carried away by the Yang family members. As the number of people in the ring decreased, the three's attacks slowed down a lot. It was obvious that they hadn't tortured their opponents enough, but their actions gave their opponents a headache. At this moment, the few elders who were still holding on in the ring had a rather deep understanding of the three little monsters' strength after testing their strength. So at this moment, they all wished that the other party would just kick them out of the ring and not torture them anymore. Unfortunately, while their thoughts were beautiful, reality was cruel. Because the three of them were dissatisfied with the previous delays of the various families, they deliberately left a few unlucky people for them to tease, so their wishes were likely to be temporarily unachievable. After an unknown amount of time, when the few old men left on the stage were covered in minor injuries and their clothes were in tatters, the three finally had enough fun and kicked them off the stage. The moment they fell off the arena, the elders felt relieved. They felt a sense of relief, and this feeling made them want to cry. Before the old men with wet eyes and scars were carried away, they heard the three men on the ring ask in unison, "We won, right?" "We won," the few elders replied weakly, and then they were so angry that their eyes rolled back and they fainted. Looking at the few people who had fainted, the three of them blinked their eyes and calmly walked down the ring, leaving without looking back. Watching the three of them leave, the old man beside the Yang family's old ancestor couldn't help but excitedly poke his arm and said, "Congratulations, you have so many affiliated families all of a sudden." The old man was filled with envy, jealousy, and hatred. Unfortunately, he did not have such a perverted little boy in his family. What he didn't know was that the Yang family's ancestor didn't feel happy at all. At this time, the Yang family's ancestor was thinking, "We're finished. The Yang family will be next." That's right, the competition was already over. Although the three representatives of the Yang family had won the bet, the Yang family's old ancestor couldn't be happy. He would never forget the crime committed by his disappointing junior. The current Yang family could be destroyed at any time. At the thought of this, he quickly stood up from the VIP seats and headed straight to the courtyard where Lung Ruoxue and the others were. However, the Yang family's old ancestor had been refused entry. Ji Kai stopped the Yang family ancestor outside the courtyard and said that his master didn't want to see him. The Yang family's old ancestor felt extremely bitter when he heard this. However, he did not dare to offend Lung Ruoxue and the rest. Hence, he could only leave resentfully. Not long after returning to the main courtyard, the representatives of the ancient martial arts families went to the Yang family's ancestor one after another to express that they would fulfill the bet. Hearing this, the Yang family's ancestor could only nod woodenly. At this time, this was not what he wanted to hear the most. Looking at the Yang family's ancestor, who obviously won but still had a bitter face, the representatives of the major ancient martial arts families felt a little uncomfortable in their hearts. However, now that they had become affiliated families of the Yang family, they naturally did not dare to show their dissatisfaction in front of the Yang family's ancestor. The Yang family's ancestor did not have the mood to deal with them. So after hastily sending them away, he began to frown again. Not only was the Yang family's ancestor frowning, but the Yang family, who knew the truth, also couldn't be happy about the fact that they had won, but had no life to enjoy. At the same time, Lung Ruoxue and the rest were preparing to leave. However, they didn't tell anyone about their departure. They left quietly. When the Yang family realized that Lung Ruoxue and the rest had left, they were still at a loss. This was because they found a note with only 4 words on it: "Take care." The Yang family members were a little scared. They understood that they had to take care of themselves, but what did these 4 words mean? Do you still want their lives? In the face of this unclear truth, the Yang family could not be at ease. Helplessly, the old ancestor of the Yang family could only send Yang Shan to meet Lung Ruoxue and the others. At least in the heart of the old ancestor of the Yang family, Yang Shan had some say in Lung Ruoxue and the others. Yang Shan, who felt that he had a heavy burden on his shoulders, rushed to the residence of Lung Ruoxue and the others without stopping. When they arrived at their destination, Yang Shan felt a little uneasy. Fortunately, Lung Ruoxue and the rest did not turn him away. Unfortunately, he did not know how to bring it up when he saw Lung Ruoxue. Faced with Lung Ruoxue's clear eyes, Yang Shan did not have the courage to ask about the Yang family's fate. Instead, he thickened his skin and stayed. At the same time, he also understood one thing. To Lung Ruoxue and the rest, the Yang family was like an ant that they did not need to fear. He didn't seem to care about the Yang family at all. The days went on as usual. The 3 of them were still as adorable as ever. The demon still loved to be jealous of her son. Lung Ruoxue was still stuck between her dear husband and her adorable son. However, she felt that this kind of life was very blissful. Family, lover, son, she already had everything. What more could she ask for? A few years later, when Lung Ruoxue and the rest returned to the God world, the 3 of them had already grown up and started their own legend. Chapter 3141. Yindi, Sang's Confession. It was called Azure, a guardian tower spirit born from chaos. It didn't know how many years it had lived. It only knew how to watch the ants in its eyes come and go every day, live and die, never stopping. Such days were rather boring. However, it could not resist because this was its mission. He would protect the divine realm and the peace of the various planes. Originally, it should have had a partner. However, that partner was too stupid. He had raised an ungrateful wolf and even killed himself. From then on, he only had himself again. However, it didn't care because it didn't like that partner in the first place. When his partner was too stupid and played him to death, it also knew, but it was cold-blooded and didn't save him. Of course, it couldn't be said that it didn't save him. When it discovered all this, that guy was about to collapse. So, there was naturally no need to waste its strength to save an idiot. But from then on, it was alone again. The days of living alone were lonely. It was so bored that it even thought of finding a master for itself. It had been lonely for too long, and it really yearned for the warmth of home. It was a pity that it never knew what home was. Ever since the news of the God-protecting pagoda recognizing a master spread, many people came to the God-protecting pagoda every day, but those people were no doubt idiots in its eyes. They couldn't even answer the simplest question it had given. So how could its master be such a stupid fellow like a pig? It threw those stupid pigs out one by one. It didn't know how long it had been like this. Although it was still so bored, it didn't stop looking for its master. It was actually quite sick of seeing those people being stupid every day. However, it quickly found a new source of entertainment. That was, whenever he was bored, he would go to the Divine Master's estate and cause trouble for that woman. That woman was very afraid of it. Although she was always angered to death by it, she never dared to fall out with it. In the beginning, it felt a sense of accomplishment, but gradually it got tired of such days. Until one day, it met a woman by the name of Lung Ruoxue. That woman was extremely beautiful. In the eyes of the artifact spirit, she was definitely a beauty that could cause the downfall of a city. He was quite satisfied with her and felt that she was very smart. It would be good for her to be his master. However, it also had its own troubles, because there were too many beasts around that woman, and they had to fight for her favor every day. However, this was also good. At least his days would not be boring. Sang's favorite thing to do was to transform into all kinds of cute little beasts and lie in Lung Ruoxue's arms. It felt great. Of course, It had used its Totoro image the most because it realized that Lung Ruoxue seemed to like its Totoro appearance. Later on, it was even a kitten. Thinking back to the tragic experience of transforming into a kitten, Song couldn't bear to recall it. That was something that happened after they had eliminated Wu Yin and Lung Ruoxue had become a divine master. Come to think of it, it was a good thing that his girl had become a divine master. Furthermore, she would have the help of the Guardian Tower spirit, which was even better. The only thing that made it feel bad was that Neo actually proposed to that stinky man after becoming a divine master. So be it if it was a proposal, but that stinky man had actually taken his girl away, causing him to look all over the universe for her. After that, he finally found Neo, only to find out that Neo had a baby in her stomach. This was its child, and it was looking forward to it. Furthermore, in order to earn money for the baby's milk powder, it had done a lot of things. However, that stinky man did not appreciate it, and even wanted to snatch the child away from it. This matter, Uncle can tolerate it, but Aunt can't. How could she not win over that stinky man? As it turned out, it had indeed snatched the children. However, it later found out that the stinky man despised the 3 cute children for stealing the attention of his girl. He was feeling unhappy, but now, with him as the godfather snatching the children, that damn demon just took advantage of the situation. Of course, it didn't care about being used. After all, the 3 babies were really cute, and they were the girl's children. As a godfather, it naturally had to love the house and the house. The 3 milk babies had a very good relationship with it. It was just about to surpass the position of that damned evildoer in the hearts of the 3 cute children. But at this time, that damned evildoer had tripped it up. I wonder where he got this little female cat from. From the day it saw the little female cat, it had been pestered by her. The little female cat even wanted to marry it and have a bunch of kittens with it. Oh my! Every time it thought of this, it felt terrified. It wasn't a real cat, so how could it have a baby with a female cat? Moreover, even if it was a cat, it couldn't possibly take a fancy to an ordinary cat with a limited lifespan of only 10 years at most. It wasn't that it looked down on ordinary cats, but the 2 cats didn't match up in status and didn't even have a common language. Fortunately, this matter quickly disappeared. Otherwise, it could only escape back to the divine realm. Ever since this incident, it had been particularly vigilant of all the cats around its house, as if it were guarding against thieves. Later on, under its strict defense, such a thing finally did not happen again. As for it, it accompanied the 3 little babies to travel around the world all day long, and its little days were particularly fulfilling. After that, when they returned to the divine world, they were still together every day. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.